Ms. Hayes, you claim the defendant owes you $430 for babysitting that you did for her daughter.
Correct.
How did you find her as a babysitter?
Well, we were very good friends at the time.
And?
And we were very good friends, and she moved into the front house, my boyfriend's rental house, and her rent was raised up.
So she was your boyfriend's tenant?
Right. And her rent was up a little bit from where she was living, and it made it more difficult for her to be able to pay the daycare that she was paying, which she told me was $80 a week. And she asked me one day if I would do it for $50 a week. And I agreed.
That's
nice. I agreed.
I'm going to give you an opportunity to have your turn. Go ahead.
I agreed because I'm a single mother. I was not working. I needed the money, and I wanted to try and help her out because we were friends, and I thought it was helping each other out.
So you started to babysit.
Uh-huh.
How long did you babysit?
I'd say approximately about 10 weeks. I did not...
Approximately.
It was a 10-week period. I don't know I know it was from May to July, but I didn't pay attention because it was through friends. It was just a verbal agreement. I didn't document the exact dates, but I was counting the weeks as they went on.
Did you babysit every day?
I believe it's 3 to 4 days a week.
According to your complaint, months went by or weeks went by and there was no payment.
And then I started asking for a payment, and she told me that she hadn't received the check from her husband's company yet for her child support. And so I said, okay, well, I'll continue. And then as time went on, she started bringing things home that she was buying and such and showing them to me. And I would ask her for $20 one day because I didn't have any money to feed my child that night, and she didn't have any money to give me. So I said, well, you know, I'm going to have to discontinue the daycare because I need some money too, and I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. So then I discontinued the daycare. We stopped speaking for a while.
Is that why you stopped speaking?
Basically. We stopped speaking for a while, and then one day I came home and found $70 cash in an envelope, unmarked envelope, on my door. I assumed it came from her. So
did it?
Yes, it did.
So after a while, I thought, you know, the pressure, the tension was just too much. Living next to each other, we were friends. I wanted us to remain friends, and so I asked again if she could give me any more money towards the outstanding balance, and I sent her a collection letter at that time. And she didn't respond because I sent it certified and there was no pickup. So we stopped speaking once again, and I sent her this collection letter, in which I have, if you'd like to read it. And this one states basically the whole story. And it's very nice, it's very professional, and I just wanted her to know that I was serious, that I would go file a claim if she didn't make some type of compensation.
Well, but I need more specific dates from you than you've given me about May.
I just know from May to July.
Well, the beginning of May, the middle of May.
So, yeah, I would say the middle of May through July.
Now it's your turn.
I have receipts from the daycares that she was going to. Jackie offered to watch her. She volunteered to watch her a couple days a week to help me out because I was not receiving child support yet from my soon-to-be ex-husband.
Okay.
There was no set rate. There was no set days. There was no set weeks. She would always offer to cook, and she loved to barbecue. She'd have people over whenever at her boyfriend's house. I have, you know, there was no 10 weeks. There was maybe the most two and a half weeks at the most.
I disagree with that
fully. And she was paid $70.
Well, let me see. You say you have receipts from daycare during the periods of part of May, June, and July.
Right. My grandma has always watched my daughter from day one.
I mean, are you saying that this was not a daycare? This was your grandmother?
My grandmother watched... No. She started off watching her when I first got a job.
I'm talking about during that period of time.
Yes,
during this period of time, May, June, and July.
Yes, I have receipts.
From whom?
From the daycare my daughter goes to.
From a professional daycare person or daycare provider. Can I see them, please? How many days a week were you working at that time?
5 days a week.
And how many days a week was your daughter going to daycare, this professional daycare?
The professional one, 3 days a week, and my grandmother would watch her 2 days.
Well, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure about Grandma. Well, you have something here that seems to be a full balance with tuition and how many payments you made starting August 6th. Mm-hmm. Who was that from?
That's from the school she goes to right now, Sherry's preschool.
And this is August of '96 that you're referring to.
No,
Right.
that's, see, the week that I discontinued the daycare, she started going to
someplace
Sherry's.
else. Well, that's what this seems to say, August of '96. But I have to have some more specifics from you, Ms. Hayes. And that is, how many days a week?
I want to say it was 3 days, sometimes 4. Her grandmother did take her, I believe it was on Tuesdays.
Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays.
I had her at least 3 days a week, sometimes 4.
For full days?
For full days. I was at her house at 7 in the morning, and she would pick her up between 5 and 5:30 in the evening.
So you went to pick her up?
I would pick her up, yes.
She volunteered to do this so that way also her son has someone to play with.
No, I
Not
don't believe
for
that. I don't
free,
believe
I'm
that
sorry.
that's true, Miss Norman.
No, I never said it was for free.
Right. I don't believe that that's true. I don't believe that you watch
She was
another
paid
child.
$70. It wasn't for free.
Listen to me. I don't believe that you watch another child for 10 hours. How old is your daughter?
She's 3.
You don't watch a 3-year-old for 10 hours without being compensated, even for a friend.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
She gave a phone number also.
So, what do you expect me to do? You want me to get off the bench and go call her?
Jacqueline Hayes says she never got paid for babysitting Michelle Normandine's daughter. They used to be friends.
You have shown me a receipt that you started the daycare, formal daycare, in August, which pretty much coincides with what the plaintiff says. Therefore, I believe that you did have an arrangement, and your arrangement was to pay her $50, which I think was more than generous, on a 10-hour day, watching a child, a 3-year-old toddler. You paid her $70. Certainly, in June and July alone, we have 4 1/3 weeks. That's almost 10 weeks right there. Part of May, you said, the middle of May, even giving her the benefit of the doubt that you started the end of May. That is your 10 weeks.
But here she was at Brenda's daycare, family daycare in Torrance until June 14th.
Hey, listen to me. I don't believe that for 2 reasons. First of all, it's on a plain piece of paper, and I don't know who wrote it. Somebody who runs a business, a daycare center, a formal daycare center, has a letterhead. They have a letterhead that says this is what they are. They're licensed, right? This is on a plain piece of paper. I could have typed that in my den last night.
She gave a phone number also.
So, what do you expect me to do? You bring a witness. You want me to get off the bench and go call her? If I went and called her, would she tell me that in the entire month of June, your daughter was there 5 days a week? Is that what she would tell me?
She didn't say the whole entire
month
of June.
Just a second. Maybe that's a good idea. If I went and called this lady, whose telephone number appears here, would she tell me that in the month of June, your daughter was there 5 days a week?
Not 5 days a week. No, my grandmother watched her the remaining other 2 days.
I don't believe that.
Well.
Your grandmother lives clearly in this area. If you had a witness, you bring a witness.
She has hip problems. That's why she continues to not watching her no more. That's why she goes to daycare full time.
Hip problem doesn't prevent you from coming to court. Hip problem may prevent you from running after a 3-year-old toddler, but doesn't prevent you from coming to court. It's just convenient. All right. She owes you $500. She paid you $70. $430. Did I get that right, Bird?
You got it right.
That was very quick.
$430.
Judgment is for the plaintiff for $430.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
It was very hard living next door to each other. Our kids wanted to play together. They weren't able to because we weren't speaking. It was very, very difficult. I enjoyed her daughter. She's a wonderful girl. And I really enjoyed the time. But I needed to be paid as well as I was trying to save her money. Friends need to really take a look at each other and just show more respect for the ones that really care.
And now, the next case.
Parties on. Costanza versus Altshuler. Step forward.
Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altshuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
You 2 gals were former roommates, shared an apartment together. According to your complaint, your former roommate owes you for half a month's rent and half the security on an apartment that you shared together.
Yes.
you say that you gave her a check for your half of the month's rent. So far, is that correct?
Right.
And that she was supposed to pay the entire month's rent. You wrote a check for the entire month's rent. You gave it to the landlord, correct?
Correct.
And then you had a fight and you stopped payment on the check.
Well, it wasn't like a fight. It was when I decided to give her notice that I would be moving out at the end of the month.
But you stopped payment on the check.
After her threats and...
I'll get to that in a second. I'll get to the fluff of this story in a minute. But bottom line, you stopped payment on the check and you kept the money, right?
Right.
Which included the half that she had given you.
Right.
Well, why'd you do that for?
Because I took my part of the security deposit and paid the rest of the bills that she mailed back to my parents' house.
Well, but you can't do that. She gave you the money to pay the rent.
And I had full intentions of paying the rent until she just completely blew up and threatened me, saying that I couldn't step foot anywhere near there. And so that's when I decided to
All right,
stop.
let's go back. How long did you live together?
A month.
All right, what happened? What was your argument about? When did it take place?
Well, I'm not sure what the threats are, but we had a dispute when she told me she was moving out. I guess I was upset that she was moving out, and I said, well, you have to pay the rent. She said she would, and she did for about 2 weeks. And then,
How did she pay the rent for 2
well,
weeks?
she paid the rent and then stopped payment. I found out at the end of the month.
The end of the second month?
Yes, July. My landlady had informed me that the payment was stopped on the check and that I needed to repay the rent, or someone was responsible. And I told her to return the keys, and she would not. I said, you don't live there. I think that you need to give them back. She took about a month.
Was she living in the apartment at the time?
No.
So this was after that all happened?
It was like the same day that she had moved all her stuff out. I called and said, you need to return the keys.
I see. And what day of the month was
July
that?
2nd.
And this was the rent for the month of July?
Yes.
When she wasn't going to be there, but you had already given her your half of the rent for that month?
Yes. On June 30th, I believe it was.
Okay. And how much was the security deposit that you put into the apartment?
It was $500 total, $250 each.
And how much was your part of the rent?
$307.50.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment.
Two people who don't love each other should never room together.
Right.
But that's always a terrible beginning to a live-in situation. That's what keeps me in business.
Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altschuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
Okay, go ahead. I'm listening to you.
I had full intentions of paying the month's rent. I told her on July 1st that I would be moving out at the end of the month. She freaked out, so I moved all my stuff out that day with still full intentions of paying the month's rent. And then she started to, that's when she asked for the keys. I mailed the keys. They came back to me. Then I mailed them again certified so that she would receive them. She, she just said that I couldn't step foot near there. Why would I pay a month's rent if I wasn't allowed to, go anywhere near
Well,
there?
I'm not even talking about your part of the month's rent. Let's not even talk about that. Let's talk about the money she gave you to pay for July. You kept that.
For my part of the security deposit.
But maybe you weren't going to get back the security deposit if you were breaking your lease without any notice.
It was a month-to-month.
But you're supposed to give notice even on a month-to-month.
That was my mistake. I didn't give notice to the landlord. I gave notice to her, and I know that. That was my mistake.
But you're supposed to give notice, because if you don't give notice, then everybody loses the security deposit. What happened with the security deposit?
It was forfeited for July's rent, and there's still $115 outstanding. I have the lease here that she signed.
Can I take a look at it?
And it says on a month-to-month tenancy there. It's highlighted.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. You signed the lease. The lease says you're supposed to give the landlord 30 days' notice. You didn't give the landlord 30 days' notice because you said you moved out on the 2nd of July.
Right.
Well, even if you gave the landlord 30 days notice, that wouldn't be until the 2nd of August. Right?
Right.
So whether you gave her notice or whether you gave the landlord notice, you're still responsible for that rent. You are responsible for the rent for that month. Did you move into another apartment?
No, I moved back into my parents' house.
Got to read everything really carefully. How old are you?
19.
Okay. So it's a good lesson. You understand that?
Yes, but her side also, when you have someone that's threatening you bodily harm and spitting on you and stuff, and you want to get your money back, you understand that she tried to do it right. She paid the rent even though she was moving out. Granted, because she didn't do it to the landlord, it's wrong.
Stand up here.
Just because she didn't do it to the landlord, we agree that's wrong, but when someone threatens bodily harm and tries to spit on her...
I am pregnant.
You were.
And you were not there.
We have every message, word by word, written down.
Are you Miss Alchula?
O'Brien.
Oh, Miss O'Brien. Two people who don't love each other should never room together.
Right.
Right? I don't know how long these young ladies knew each other before they decided to move in together. I don't know what the circumstances were. But that's always a terrible beginning to a live-in situation. That's what keeps me in business, these roommate situations.
Judge Judy will continue in a moment. Claire Costanza moved in with roommate Darlena Altschuler, and their friendship blew up in a month.
The plaintiff did, in fact, give her half of the rent, $307.50. The deposit, the security deposit, was forfeited because they didn't give 30 days notice to the landlord. When did you finally leave the apartment?
My last day would have been August 9th. I went through the walkthrough with her, with my landlady. I moved out, I think, on the 5th. I had another place I was moving into.
So it's because she used it for rent, as opposed to Darlena knew once she threatened her that she's never going to give her a deposit back. So what we should have done...
Who are you?
I'm her friend, and I've been there a lot more than she has. Darlena's mom was not there while any of this was going on, supposedly threatening. And I think Darlena's old enough to take care of herself. And I think, she's pregnant. Okay, if there's any threatening, it's verbal, and you can deal with verbal since you've done the same thing back. And I'm sorry, but you weren't there. I was there. I was there.
Oh, so you listened to the messages?
No, I was there. I've heard the message that she left to Claire.
That's funny, because I was there when she
Listen
left.
to me.
Darlena's an adult. She can do it herself.
Your daughter made a poor choice of roommates.
Right.
She didn't get hurt. She safely moved back into the house. You cross it off to a bad experience and you learn from it. That's what you teach children as they're growing up. If you make a bad move, you try to learn from it and not recreate those mistakes as you get older. So the next time she will look further into the background of a roommate. And I'm not saying there was anything wrong with you. I'm just saying if that's the case, you look further before you jump into a situation where you expose yourself to living with somebody that you really don't know. She should learn from this experience, and the experience is going to cost her, I'm so bad in math, $557.50. Judgment is for the plaintiff, that's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
Judge.
Number 7 on the calendar in the matter of Opp versus Gallagher. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Well, this is some story, depending upon the version. Bottom line, Miss Opp, you are suing the defendant, Mr. Gallagher, because you say he assaulted you on a recent trip to Mexico.
Yes.
Why you were there is somewhat in dispute. We'll get to that in a minute. He says that you assaulted him first. Something that you don't really deny in your papers.
Yes, I did.
All right, so let's start at the beginning. Were you his girlfriend?
We were girlfriend and boyfriend.
For how long? Before you took this trip, this fateful trip?
Probably a year and a half.
What were you doing in Mexico?
We originally went down there to get him some steroids and some medicine that takes you off of steroids.
No, that's not true, Your Honor.
Well, I'll get to you in a second. All right, so tell me when you left. You left for Mexico on what day of the week?
We left on the 17th. I don't remember what day of the week that was.
Oh, was it on a weekend?
I don't even remember.
Were you planning on spending a few days there?
No, we just went there for the day to pick up his steroids.
So you left in the morning?
Yeah.
What time did you get there?
I think it was around 10.
In the
11.
morning?
Yeah.
So what did you do? Tell me about the day.
We got there and we went to the pharmacy to look for his stuff, and he wanted to find a doctor where he could get his steroids, and that took an hour or two. And then we went, had some tacos, drank a few beers, and basically that took a couple more hours. Then we went to a strip bar. We had previously talked about me dancing, and I said no, I'm not comfortable.
Well, tell me
with
if
it.
that's what I don't. That's what I find so interesting about this case. You went to a few strip bars and you talked about you dancing.
Well, before we went to the strip bar, we talked about it.
What was the conversation?
He wanted to see me dancing.
No.
Go ahead.
He wanted to see me dance because it was kind of like a fantasy thing between us. He just wanted to see it. I wasn't a dancer. He'd never seen me on a stage, and I told him if I did do it, I would need to drink a lot in order to get up there. And so we went to the strip bar. I drank a lot, and
you got pretty drunk?
I don't really get drunk because I get sick really easy, but I got tipsy, definitely. I had to relax in order to do it.
Okay.
And so I drank. He said, come on, keep doing it, you know, go do it. And finally I did it. I went up there and I danced. And when I got down...
At the strip bar?
Yes. And
Bambi's.
Do you have to... I mean, can anybody just go there and do this? Do you have to ask a manager?
Anybody can do it. There was other American girls there doing it too. And there was a bunch of Marines. It wasn't...
Okay. Feels foolish now, doesn't it?
I've never done it before.
Oh, okay.
And it was supposed to be something private between him and I, and it didn't end up that way.
So what happened? You danced?
I danced. I was done. We went to another bar, and he's like, do it here, and we're sitting there, and there was a girl dancing in front of us. And he says, give me $1, I want to tip her. I said, I'm not going to give you $1 to tip her. Use your own money. And we got into an argument from that point on. So we walked out of the strip bar, and we're arguing on the street, and he called me a whore. And I said, how could you call me a whore? You're the one who talked me into doing this. And he goes, I'm sorry. He goes, I shouldn't have said that. Hit me. And I go, no. And he goes, hit me, you're a whore. And he just kept saying it. Finally, I hit him. I mean, we were arguing. It wasn't just a calm thing.
So you hit him?
So I hit him.
Where'd you hit him?
I'm sorry?
Where did you hit him?
In the face.
One time or more than one time?
One time, and then he called me a whore and told me, hit me again. So I hit him one more time. And then we grabbed a taxi.
3 times.
And then we grabbed a taxi, and we were driving back because we were going to get in trouble at that point. And he started calling me a whore again. So instead of hitting him, I grabbed my clog off my foot and hit him over the head. So I went and hit him in the face. But tempers were not good, and he kept calling me a whore. And
he was pretty drunk too.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So
you get to the border.
We get to the border, and things have calmed down. We're back on this side. It's kind of over. I said I had to go to the bathroom before we go back, and in the parking lot where you park, there's a public restroom, and we went in there, and he starts arguing, and he's talking about it, and I said, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I don't want to argue. It's over. Let's just go home. It's been a bad day. And I tried to get out of the bathroom because I was done, and he wouldn't let me out of the bathroom. He kept arguing with me. And so I went to open the door, unlock the door, and get out. So it was hot and stinky. It's gross in there. And he wouldn't let me out. Finally, he grabbed me, and he pulled me away from the door and shoved me against the wall. And then that's when the back of my head hit the wall, and I passed out. And he was yelling at me, stop it, you're faking it, you're faking it. And I was looking at him saying, I'm not faking it, I'm passing out right now. And I was slumping down to the ground. And when I came to, because I kind of went out, when I came to, I noticed my hearing was gone. And then I became hysterical because I didn't know what was wrong. I'd never even heard of a ruptured eardrum. I didn't know what it was. I thought I had gone deaf for some reason. And I started screaming to him. We walked back to the car. He finally let me out, and we started to drive away. I said, take me to a hospital. This isn't normal. There's something wrong with me. Take me to a hospital. And he said, no, I'm not, you know, you're fine. You're faking it. And so I grabbed my cellular phone because he was going to take me to the hospital to dial 911, and he grabbed the phone and wouldn't let me call. And so because he wouldn't go to the hospital, I opened the door and pretended I was going to jump out. In order to let him know that I was serious, I needed to go to the hospital.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
She would remain anonymous. No one would find out about this, and she could let her inhibitions go.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie Opp is suing ex-boyfriend John Gallagher, claiming he punctured her eardrum during a fight over her amateur stripping debut.
So you have medical bills that you want him to pay for.
Yes.
What were your medical bills?
One's the doctor's bill, which is $228.64. One is the lab bill, which is $267.24, and then there's the emergency hospital bill, which is $1,306.
Okay, Mr. Gallagher. You had enough water, sir?
Oh, yeah.
Good.
Go to the bathroom?
Let's hear your story. You
All right,
went to Mexico.
I'll tell you the real version of the story. Actually, it started about a week before the date we went down. I can't recall the date, but the week prior, she had gone down to Mexico with a girlfriend named Melissa, done the same thing. She had been flirting with the idea of possibly trying, dancing at nightclubs. And, can't blame her. She's, pretty attractive and can make a lot of money at it. So they had gone down and came back and told me the story how she had gotten up on stage. And I don't think she actually meant to, but she ended up getting up on stage, and she made a bunch of money. And she was kind of excited. And it probably was a fantasy thing also, but we decided to go down on that Saturday.
How much is a bunch of money? I'm just
She
curious.
had a lot of crinkle $1 bills, but I'm sure more than 100 of them.
$80. $80. It's not a lot of money.
She's probably on there for like 5 minutes and made $80.
This was before you made
I'd gone
$80
the
when you went
weekend
down there
before
with the girlfriend.
With my girlfriend, I told him about it, and he said, I want to do that. And we talked about it.
So
and
you
I
went
said,
down the
No,
week
she
before
wanted
with
to-
Shut
No, I said that I wasn't really comfortable with it.
But you went down a week before you made $80.
Right.
So she wanted me to go down with her.
I'm going to charge you for the water.
Can I get something better? So, I'm a little nervous. She wanted me to go with her, partly as protection. Melissa couldn't go, and also fantasy thing. But we didn't go down in the morning, and we did not go down to buy steroids. It's a lie. We didn't go down to buy steroids. We actually went down. It was dark out when
Ask
we were
him to
driving.
take his jacket off.
Yeah. We went.
What?
While we were there, we did go down, but it wasn't in the morning. It was dark out. It was probably like 7 or 8 o'clock when we started driving down. She drove her car, and we did stop at the border, and we parked in that parking lot and took the red bus. It's just this red bus you take in. It's like a mile. It costs $1. And I did buy some pharmaceuticals there. They were not steroids. I didn't go down to buy steroids. Then we started drinking, and actually went to a taco bar across the street from the strip bars, and we had some beers, and we went to, I think, 2 other bars and drank a lot of tequila. We did get pretty drunk. And she got her courage up, and she really wasn't sure if she was going to do this, and maybe I did, provoke her a little bit to do it. We went to the first bar. I think it was Bambi's. And arrangements were made for her to go on stage, and she went on the backstage.
Let me stop you. How were arrangements made? Look. How
went
were
up-
arrangements made for her to go on the stage?
I was kind of like her agent.
Well, Mr. Gallagher, that's a conclusion, sir. Tell me exactly what you did to
Went up to,
make these
one of the-
arrangements.
Grabbed one of the guys, like the Mexican guys that worked there that spoke English, and said she wants to dance. And then at first they look at her and like, yeah, but they try to play hardball. No, we can't have her up. And we negotiate back and forth.
What do you negotiate about?
Just to get her on,
What negotiating usually involves money.
Yeah, well, she's going to
So
make
let me
money.
hear.
He wanted free
Oh,
drinks.
free beers for me.
Just a second. So you negotiated with one of the proprietors, or
I drank free, she got to dance. That was the negotiation. Oh, she got to drink free, too. That was a given. And so we negotiated she was going to go on the backstage. I think she wanted to get on the front stage where she would make more money and have more exposure. This little room in the back with a small backstage. She gets up there and takes her clothes off, and hell breaks loose. I mean, they can't believe what they're seeing. She's very beautiful. I mean, the whole bar moves to the back where it's getting crowded while she's dancing and going off. And I mean, bottles start flying, and people are like getting so close to each other. And I mean, it was like a madhouse. And she starts, you know, dancing. And I got, you know, kind of jealous of her, you know, to see her doing that.
So you got angry.
I got angry and I got jealous. It was painful. No, I didn't get angry. I tried to keep in perspective. Tried to. And,
but you had a lot of booze.
We were getting drunk. We were drinking.
Well, she wasn't drinking when she was up there dancing, but you was continuing to drink when she was
drinking when she got down, though.
But you were drinking while she was dancing.
Yeah, but not as much as her.
She came down and you got angry. Tell me what happened.
No, I didn't get angry. When she came down, we decided to go to another bar where she could do the same thing because it was kind of wearing thin there and it got kind of violent. They were going crazy when they saw her. So we went to a bar next door.
Were you fond of this lady?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's not rigid. Maybe it's my puritanical upbringing. You know? That's not funny. That's not meant to be funny, sir. I just don't understand a man who would encourage. In fact, I think she's nuts for wanting to do it in the first place.
Well,
but a man who would encourage someone who he's fond of, negotiate, act as her agent.
Well, I'll make sure she's okay, you know, and nothing would take place. I wasn't going to let anyone hurt her.
That's not what I'm talking about, sir. Usually there's a certain proprietary interest that men have in their women and women have in men that they like.
It was in
I don't
secrecy.
quite understand you.
It was in the secrecy of Mexico where she would remain...
Order.
She would remain anonymous. No one would find out about this, and she could let her inhibitions go. And
his inhibition.
All right. Yours
she
too.
drugged me down there.
You went there before without him?
Yes.
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 Judge Judy continues in a moment.
That sounds pretty reasonable to me. Both acted like idiots.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. John Gallagher admits he became jealous when his girlfriend Julie danced in a strip club, but he says he didn't mean to cause the injury to her eardrum.
I want you to tell me she assaulted you because you called her a whore. Is that right?
In the second bar, I made the horrible mistake of calling her a whore. I did.
Okay. And tell me about the assault that took place on you.
Well, first, she lied because I didn't just hand the girl money. I was standing there. I felt guilty. I'm next to this girl dancing, and I took one of her dollar bills that she'd just earned of hundreds, and I gave her one. And she got jealous and was pissed off.
Were you injured when she hit you?
The first 2 times she's hitting like a girl, it didn't hurt, and I did say, yeah, you hit like a girl, hit me again. She hit me again. Third time, she belted me so hard, my lip just exploded. Blood was coming out. And it almost knocked me down. Believe it or not, she can hit pretty good.
Okay, and what about hitting you with the clog in your head?
She hit you with the clog.
Federales are coming, and it's an emergency, so they stuff us in a cab, and we're driving, but we just keep arguing in the cab, arguing back and forth, and she hits me in the back of the head with a clog, and I barely remember that, except the next day I had a big bump on my head. We get through the United States, like she said, we go to the parking lot to use the bathroom before wherever we're going to go. We're going to drive. We're both drunk. And she gets passionate again. We start arguing. We had moments of calm and fury and calm and fury where we kind of calm down. And she's that way. She can fight good. So, you know, I'm going to tell you the truth. I was drunk at the time. I can't remember every detail that occurred. But I know that she was starting to get angry again. And I don't know if she was going to hit me or I thought she was going to hit me or she tried to. Can't remember. But I know that I grabbed her and I picked her up. And she was wrestling. And she went limp.
This was in the bathroom?
In the bathroom. And she was flailing, and I was drunk, and I didn't know that she hit her head. She just went limp in my hands. And she sunk down to the ground on her butt. And she sat there and looked up at me, and then she started to say she couldn't hear. And I really thought she was embellishing something. I didn't believe her at first. And she started to cry and scream and get more hysterical. And I didn't believe that she was hurt.
Ultimately, you took her to the hospital.
And ultimately, we ended up at the hospital. Her injuries are obviously real. The doctor found out that she had a bruise here in the back of her left ear, I think. Left ear. And she was, I don't know if she lost hearing or not.
What did you originally offer to pay her to
When the bills came, we split it.
You'd split it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds pretty reasonable to me. You both acted like idiots. It sounds pretty reasonable to me that you should split it.
She probably did hit her head as a result of me lifting her up. I don't think on purpose. I know on purpose I didn't try to hurt her.
After you arrived back in the United States and after this whole incident, did you continue to see each other?
Yes.
Yeah. For how long?
About 4 more months until I kept catching him cheating on me. So I finally...
So you saw each other for 4 months after
Right.
that? You had already gotten these bills?
Yes, I'd gotten it, and he's given me $25 on those
50.
bills.
I gave you 50.
25.
Did you ever take up this dancing as an occupation?
That's
Yes.
what I'm doing now.
Good, too.
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Julie Opp wants her former boyfriend, John Gallagher, to pay the medical bills for an injury he caused when he became jealous over her appearance in Tijuana strip club.
I read medical bills at $1,800.
And then also, I was suing him for $300 because I had to get a restraining order against him.
That's your problem. Listen to me. Miss Opp, I think you made a big mistake. I think this whole escapade in Mexico was a big mistake, and I'm not being judgmental. I'm just saying to you that going, getting drunk, and engaging in bar dancing with your boyfriend is not something that's designed to solidify a relationship in normal terms. Maybe I'm missing something. My kids might say to me, you know, you're operating in the 40s and 50s and 60s, Mother, but I don't think so. I think still people who care for each other don't want to see other people slipping dollar bills in somebody's panties.
It wasn't that
Do you
bad.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
Sarah, and certainly not acting as their agent, which is, to me, almost like acting under these circumstances like a pimp.
It was pretty innocent.
It's pretty nasty. So you ought to pay for... I'm not going to have him pay for the whole thing. You contributed to this ridiculousness. And as it happens, I believe that you contributed to it even more than you initially told me you did, because you went down there before with a girlfriend, which is something that you didn't tell me right away. You said you had never done anything like this before. Right? Isn't that what you told me?
Yeah.
All right.
Well,
So your medical
Yes.
bills, you didn't have any medical bills from being clocked by her, did you?
No.
No. Oh. Your medical bills were $1,800, and you're going to pay for half. So the judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Judge, number 42 on the calendar in the matter of Fry versus Alexander. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated.
You're a model?
Yes.
Aspiring.
Yes.
So you have to smile. Mr. Alexander, you're a photographer.
Yes, I am.
You needed pictures?
Yes.
You hired him to take pictures.
Yes.
Now you're suing him
Yes.
for $1,000. Right? That's what you said.
They went up to $2,000 as of this morning.
Well, the papers that I have are for $1,000.
Good.
So why don't you tell me about this arrangement and why you think he owes you any money?
Well, he didn't agree to what we agreed in the first
Where
place.
did you meet him? Let's start with that.
The modeling management. Model. It's a model management.
Is that a company?
Agency.
An agency.
Modeling agency.
Was he referred to you by someone?
Well, he was there with my manager, and he showed me his pictures, his book, which was really good, that he took of other models. And yes, they did tell me his work was good. So, yes.
And what was the arrangement, the financial arrangement that you had with him?
I had to pay him. He said $250.
I didn't hear you.
It was $250, and that was for the photo shoot. I was getting 2 rows of pictures.
You were getting 2 rolls of pictures, or he was shooting 2 rolls of
He
pictures?
was going to shoot 2 rows of film. He said I would get 2 rows, which would be 72 pictures that I would get. Okay.
That you would get to keep?
That I would get, yes. That's what you do when you take pictures. You get your proof sheet, you get your negatives, and your slides.
And what else was he supposed to give you for this $250?
Well, after I received the pictures from him, he does other things, or he does half of the job. You know, like the background change or the eye change or different things he do extra to the pictures. So
he
that would be
touches
extra
them up.
amount, right? Extra
I
amount of
know
money.
about that.
Okay, extra amount of money. So I paid for 4 which was $100, he said. And I have those 4.
4 photographs that you paid for out of your contact sheets.
This was,
And that was $25 a piece or another $100?
It was $100 for 4. Okay, I received those. Then we went back to the pictures. He brought some of the pictures. He said I would need 7 or 8 more pictures. So we picked 7 more pictures.
7 additional ones?
Additional ones.
At what cost?
$175. And then, because at the photo shoot, he only took cash. For these 4 pictures, he only took cash. He said only cash. Okay, so with these additional ones, only had a checkbook, and I had no more money. So I post-dated the check. He didn't want to take it, but before I left, he said he would take the check. So I post-dated the $175 check for those 7 additional pictures that have
How long did you post-date the check for?
It was about a week, because it was the week Thursday. It was next Thursday. So it was a week.
Okay.
Which he had cashed it before the post-dated check. You understand? I didn't know they can do that, but
I didn't know either.
But he did, because I called the bank.
Okay.
Because I did not receive those 7 pictures, and I had been calling him, and he wouldn't return my phone calls to get me those pictures.
So that's what you're suing him for?
Yeah, for those pictures, and then the slides that I want also. The rest of my pictures, the slides.
You want the contact sheets and the negatives?
Yes.
Now, sir, let's start with the 7 pictures first. You cashed her check for $175?
Yes, I did.
And that was for 7 pictures?
7 pictures.
Where are her 7 pictures?
They're right here.
Take them out.
I mean, I have no problem with her testimony all the way to the end.
Okay.
Because, you know, she's just about right. I mean, we had an agreement, and what happened was that she said, I went out of my way to make this arrangement for her. Starting from the beginning, I charge $150 a roll. 2 rolls, $150 times 2 is $300. She bargained it down, and she knows that. She said, I'd like to shoot with you. I've seen your work. It's great. I said, okay, you know what? I'll make it $250, but that's it. She comes to the shoot. We'll do 2 rolls. In the middle of the session, of course, when I'm shooting, I ask the client, I finished the rolls. Do you want to go on? And I added 1 extra roll, and I did not even charge her for it. And so I finished the job. She was very happy. When it came to the ordering, she just kept saying she doesn't have the money. I even went out of my way. What I did was I went ahead and printed the pictures without asking any money for it. And I said, you know what, I'm so confident that you're going to like the pictures, so I'll show you. Just pay me when you pick it up. She saw it. She liked it. And she ordered some more. But then again, we had money problem. And she said, well, can I post the check? I said, sure, you can. I mean, I know you're good for it. You've been paying me. I have no problem with her. She's a very nice lady. I mean, I don't know why we are even here. But, she posted the check, and I told her, I said, number 1, your check is postdated for a week. I have to wait until I cash it because, I'm not going to
That's reasonable.
Yeah, and number 2, I was going to go out of town for a week. I mentioned that to her, and I said, when I come back, I pick up the picture and I'll give it to you.
How long did it take you to do the other 7 pictures after she had given
usually,
you the check? No, not usually. In this case, how long was it before you completed those pictures?
About a week to 10 days.
Okay. Can I see the photographs?
Sure.
I would really like to see them. Now, the only other thing that I have to ask you, sir, is about this arrangement where she would get all the negatives and the
It's not my practice whatsoever. I have hundreds of receipts here that I always mention on the bottom of my receipts. If they ask for it, I'll write it down. I do not include the picture. I do not include any negative or slides. It is just for the session. I charge $150 just to shoot. I even brought my witness that we just shot yesterday, and this is my just a very last and desperate attempt to get somebody, because I had somebody to show up today and she canceled. She had a shoot. I had a model was supposed to be here.
Well, what is she going to tell me if she would testify?
She was going to actually basically how I charge people and how I usually
All I can tell you, Miss Fry, is these are terrific. Have you seen them?
I never see.
Well, I would love you to take a look at them. I think that they're really exceptional.
No, I've never said that he does do good work, but I have another comment about the amount. Actually, was $2,000 supposed to have been
Whether it was
2,000.
2,000, I don't know what you're suing for $2,000 for.
I
1,000.
don't know.
Just a second. I don't know what you would be suing for 1,000 or 2,000 for.
Right.
To be honest with you.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He was behind me, okay, grabbing my rear, telling me again how attractive my butt looked, how good it looked, making all these sexual comments.
And later today,
Tying their shoelaces together, sir, is a far cry from using a cigarette lighter and setting somebody on fire.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Photographer Sean Alexander denies that he took liberties with model Tanya Fry during a photo session, and his witness Vanessa Gill says Sean has a spotless reputation.
Now you have all 7 pictures that you paid for.
Okay,
Right, just a second.
Just
a second. And I think that if you had not had a final written agreement with regard to these negatives,
Right.
I would not award you the negatives because I don't believe it's custom in the industry for a photographer to give away the value of his trade, because that means that you can take these negatives and go into any photocopy store and say, I want you to make me pictures. Well, that's how he makes his money, because $250 for a photo shoot is very reasonable. Right?
More than reasonable.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So photographers make their money, professional photographers, over the other pictures that you keep ordering from them. So I think it's unreasonable for you to ask for those. He was supposed to shoot 2 rolls, and from those shot rolls, you were going to select other pictures that you were going to order. In this case, you ordered a total of 11
I even
pictures.
shot extra roll.
Well, that wasn't said. The said was you'll get 72 pictures, which would be more than enough what you would need for your book. So
I still don't understand why you're suing
And I
him
think
for.
she's suing-
well,
I still don't understand why you're suing him for $2,000. Then we'll get to this watch that you're holding. Is that her watch?
Yeah, I
Yes,
think
that's
that's what
another
it is. Cost $2,000. I don't know. I mean,
And
that's
then-
what she-
Just a second. Was that left during the photo shoot?
Yes.
So give it back to her.
and then
Take your watch.
the other incident was the harassment.
What kind
during
of harassment?
The photo shoot, the sexual harassment.
I can't believe this.
That was
All right. So you're suing for sexual harassment. Let me hear. Is that
Okay.
what the
Yes.
money is for? Let me hear.
changing in the room.
In what room?
It was in the dressing room at this house.
I have a
'cause that's-
makeup.
Jump. I'm going to get to you. Go
It
ahead.
was during this shoot that I was changing from the bathing suit to get in this position. He was behind me, okay, grabbing my rear, telling me all these accusations, how sexy, how attractive, ooh, how this looks so good. My behind, grabbing it. That was one incident. This
Just a second. At
photo
what sta-
shoot right here.
Just a second. At what stage was this?
During the photo shoot, toward the end of the photo
Okay.
shoot.
Go ahead.
Okay. During this photo shoot, he told me I had to raise it up more, the dress, put it up or on the side. So he came over there behind me. He did it again. Hit me on the butt, telling me again how attractive my butt looked, how good it looked, making all these sexual comments. I was ready to leave. I told him, don't say that, don't do that. I said I was ready to go.
Did
Are
that
we
happen?
done?
Did that happen, sir?
It's total bogus. Let me tell you. Throughout the photo shoot, I do make the models feel comfortable, and I do say certain things so they are comfortable. I pose them. I do whatever it's necessary to make him look good, and that's what the pictures are the proof. You can tell. But as far as she said she was ready to leave. She was ready to leave to have. We even said maybe we want to go get something to eat. That's as far as I left it at the photo shoot, and that was it.
Miss Fry, I have a couple of questions for you. You did this photo shoot. Towards the end of the photo shoot, you tell me now you believe he sexually harassed you. You stayed, correct? You stayed. Is that right?
But I told him don't do it.
And after the photo shoot was concluded, you got the proofs back, right? And you selected 4 photographs. So far, am I right?
Mm-hmm.
And you were satisfied with them, you ordered them. Is that right?
I mean, you should.
Check.
See,
Do I look
Sorry.
like I need help?
no.
Miss Fry, look at me.
Yes.
You ordered 4 pictures,
Yeah.
and you were satisfied with them. You told them they were very good, and so good you wanted more pictures, correct?
Yes.
If you had gotten your 7 pictures when you felt you should have gotten them, which was a couple of weeks ago, would I hear sexual harassment from you? Would
If
I
I would
hear
have
these
gotten it?
allegations of sexual harassment from you?
Yes, because they were true. It happened.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
This
How
is
many
the first
photographers
time.
have you been with?
Several.
Really? You seem to be a little bit naive to me on the situation. I'm
Well,
sorry
who
for
are
that.
you? You need to shut up and mind your own business.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Model Tanya Fry is suing photographer Sean Alexander over slides and alleged harassment.
Is what you're saying to me, you planned on suing him whether he gave you the pictures or not?
About the sexual harassment?
Is what you're telling me that you intended when you left, or a day later or 2 days later, whether or not you got these photographs, you intended to sue him for $2,000 for sexually harassing you?
Oh, no. I was not sure of what I was going to do about those sexual harassment
Well, what made you
charges.
sure?
I wanted to let them know what was done to me during a photo shoot.
No, what I'm asking you is, at what point did you become sure that you wanted to sue him for this sexual harassment? After you ordered the first set of pictures, before you ordered the first set of pictures, when you ordered the second set of pictures?
The second. That's when I found out that I could not get my slides or negatives when he told me he was not going to give them to me because he keep them for his record.
So you determined to sue him for this $2,000 for sexual harassment when he declined to give you the negatives. Is that correct?
When I didn't get all of my things.
Very good. Okay, you now have your photographs. Is that correct?
I have some of them.
No, you have all of them. You have all that you ordered, which were the 7 retouched large photographs. And you have the 4 that he originally gave you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And you, sir, have been paid $175 for these.
Yes.
And you have been paid the $100 for the other 4.
Yes.
Correct? And you have been paid $250 for the photo shoot.
Yes.
Very good. This case is dismissed. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I'm sorry, Tanya, but I think, you went a little bit out of line.
No, I did
You
not.
know I did everything
No,
I
I did
could.
not.
You know I did everything
No,
I
I did
could.
not.
Okay? I think the judge saw the whole thing. This is just ridiculous, but I'm glad to solve it.
And now the next case.
All parties on Hanley versus Lewis. Step forward, please.
25-year-old landscaper Lawrence Handley says Richard Lewis set his shirt on fire to wake him up. Lewis says Handley had previously set off a firecracker at his feet.
Why in the world would you burn him with a cigarette lighter?
Well, it was kind of a practical joke. I wasn't intending to burn him. I was just intending to make his arm warm. It's just a gag, like a hot foot or something like that.
How old are you?
27.
Tell me how it happened.
We were waiting at my friend Scott's house here. It was after a softball game.
A what?
Softball game.
Softball game.
And we were going to go out for a couple cocktails after the game. A few people were supposed to meet us there. I fell asleep while we were waiting.
Where, in the living room?
Yeah, in the living room, in a chair in his house. I woke up. I felt or smelt something burning on my arm, and I kind of hopped up, and my shirt was on fire. And I jumped out of the chair and, started hitting my arm, and my arm was burned up, and I kind of looked around. I was in a daze. I'd just woken up, and I see him, and actually Scott was laughing too. I see him cracking up right next to me. Sort of found out that...
Did you ask him why he did that?
And he basically told me, oh, well, I was trying to, get you or something like that, burn your arm or light your hair on fire or something ridiculous. Like, I don't know. I don't know. He was still laughing up a storm about it, and I wasn't too pleased, so.
You still have a mark there?
Yeah, I do.
Can I see it, please? Step up.
Step up. It's smaller than it used to be, but it used to be about as big as a baseball.
How long ago did that happen?
4 or 5 months ago.
Did you see that, sir?
This is the first time I saw it when he showed it to you.
You want to see it? Sure.
Well, he wants some damages for your stupidity.
Well, Your Honor, it's, in all fairness, our group of friends went when someone passes out or goes to sleep, we play practical jokes on him before. I know for a fact that he's done it to other people, tie people's shoelaces together. I mean, that's why I have a witness to corroborate.
Tying their shoelaces together, sir, is a far cry from using a cigarette lighter and setting somebody on fire.
Well, I wasn't
intending
to light him on fire.
At age
That's the whole
27.
thing.
What were you trying
Do you
to
work?
do then?
Well, yeah, I do. You know,
Well, just
if I
a second.
start acting like I'm 27, I'm going to be 27. If I act like a kid, I'm going to be young for the rest of my life.
What kind of work do you do?
I sell copy work and graphics work to law firms, Overflow.
That's amazing.
Copy work.
That sounds like a pretty responsible position, sir.
It is.
So when do you take on this infancy that you do? Just on weekends?
I like to have fun. You know, in all fairness, too. In previous, I think it was last year on 4th of July, you know, he thought it was a cool gag to throw a firecracker at my girlfriend and I. And scared her pretty good. It pissed me off real good.
What?
And, you know, he just laughed it off and everybody laughed. And, you know, it was funny to him, you know.
Anybody get hurt?
No. But, you know,
I don't even know what he's talking about.
I don't know what he's talking about either. He's talking about trying to be Peter Pan for the rest of his life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
He's suing you for $2,500 because he said he got burned and it hurt and it got infected.
I have a shirt too, by the way.
Let me see it.
It's kind of
That's
dirty.
pretty scary.
I haven't washed it since then, but
It's pretty scary. Did you ever say I'm sorry?
Yeah, I did. You know,
no, he didn't.
When? Just a second. When did you say I'm sorry?
At the time, I mean, we were still laughing, so I probably didn't take it.
Who was laughing?
I was. Scott was as well.
I'm laughing too. $2,500 for the plaintiff. That's all.
Parties are excused. Step out, please. Number 62 on the calendar in the matter of Lake versus McConnell. Parties have been sworn in, Judge. You may be seated.
Mr. Lake, I am baffled by your lawsuit, so I am hoping, sir, that you are going to be able to explain to me why you believe that this young lady should give you $2,500.
As a consumer in a very aggressive area, retail grocery, as a consumer there where...
Why don't you tell me the story, sir?
The story is...
Yes, tell me about the lawsuit.
The lawsuit itself
Put your papers down, put your briefcase down, and just relax and tell me the story.
The story, which I have the physical evidence here, is that as a consumer, on Christmas Eve of last year, I entered with a companion at a certain grocery store in the San Diego County area. With that, and with my companion, we went through the cash-only line. My companion went first. She bought a couple of items. She was waiting right there on Christmas Eve for me to go through. Body language that she was ready to go, keys in her hand, tapping her foot. It was a very rush type of thing. I come in with one item in the cash line. I go ahead and confront the cashier with...
That's this young lady
yes,
here.
Yes, ma'am. A person who I now know the first and last name of. At that time, she was wearing a name tag with just her first name and last initial. At that time, right here on the receipt...
You gave her your item. What did you buy, sir?
I bought one bottle of champagne.
Okay, you
One
bought a bottle
item.
of champagne, and you gave her money.
Not only did I give her money, but before I gave her money, I said, I have two $20 bills and a 50.
Well, why would you say
Shut up!
Pardon me.
You gave her two $20 bills and a 50. And how much was the champagne?
You can see the attitude of
Shut
the
up.
store.
Hey, just a second. Mr. Lake, answer my questions,
Yes,
please.
ma'am.
How much was the bottle of champagne,
The
sir?
bottle of champagne with the tax and everything else came out to $4.30. I asked Ms. McConnell, can you break a 50? I told her I have two 20s and a 50. She said yes. I handed her a $50 bill, a quarter, and a nickel, $50.30 for a $4.30 purchase.
So what happened? Come on, speed
What
up the
happened
story.
was, with my companion waiting to go, rushing off for...
I heard the companion. What happened with the money and the champagne? Come on.
The money in the champagne is, I got the champagne, but I didn't get all the money.
Okay, so you say that she shortchanged you in the change. Is that
She
right?
went ahead and counted out $50 in cash
Yes.
as a count back. I grabbed it and the receipt, stuffed it in my pocket, and left. Very soon after, in the same part of town, I had another cash transaction. I got out my cash. the receipt read clearly, cash tended $40.30.
Okay.
I went back within half an hour of making my purchase. I confronted her and I said, have you taken in any $50 bills recently? And she said, no. This is within minutes after the transaction.
Okay, so what happened? Come on.
What happened was that talking to various store officials, including one Dean Honda, and
You talked to people at the store.
Yes, ma'am.
And did you get your $10 back?
I got the $10 back after a lot of arguing, and I also got the corporate phone up here in L.A. County.
Mr. Lake, so you went in, you gave her money, you realized sometime later when you were making a purchase that she had given you, according to you, $10 less in change than you should have gotten. So far as that, make it fast?
Yes.
You went back to the store. At first, they didn't think that they had made a mistake, but ultimately that evening, they gave you the $10, correct?
After a lot of arguing, yes.
So you had a lot of arguing, whatever. That evening, they gave you back the $10.
That's correct.
So why are we here?
On principle. She still has her job. She has not, to the best of my knowledge, been reprimanded, and the store has tolerated outright theft. This is not my opinion. This is physical evidence. They tolerated outright theft. It's not my fault that she wanted some kind of a Christmas bonus on her own as an individual employee. In an industry that, from the top, constantly cheats consumers through price fixing, that store managers constantly take items off of sale on their computers. We have, in addition to that, employees working on their own, taking money out of my pocket. The principle of the thing is we have theft, we have denial of the theft, and we have zero cooperation from the corporation.
Okay. Now, I have a couple of questions to ask.
Yes, ma'am.
How many lawsuits have you filed with regard to this particular incident?
One.
And this is the only one?
Yes, ma'am.
Never filed any lawsuits against her because she has a counterclaim against you for a variety of things, including abusive process, which is really the basis of your lawsuit, although you don't couch it in that language. She says that you've sued her at various times, and she'll tell me about that. You've also slandered her, which you did right now. You said she was a thief.
And I stand by that.
Mm-hmm. May cost you money, Mr. Lake. You understand that?
I stand
because
by
now
it.
I'm going to ask you some questions. Then I'll get to you. Okay, fine. It was Christmas Eve.
Yes, ma'am.
Store was busy?
Relatively so, yes.
And there were a lot of people online waiting, which is why you went to the cash line?
No, it was well staffed. They had a fair amount of employees waiting on people, so it was busy, but it wasn't real crowded, or there was not a long line.
Okay. And you came to her, and what you said to her was, I have two 40s or a $50 bill. Two 20s or a $50 bill.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, why would you say you had two 20s if the whole champagne was only $4?
I wanted to know, in the cash line,
yeah.
You know, I went through the cash line because I had one item in cash.
No, Mr. Lake, you're not following me, sir. If I had a 20 and a 50 and I was buying a $4 item, I might say, can you cash a 50? I have a 50 or a 20. Can you cash a 50? You told me that you said to her, I have two 20s and a 50.
Because I had just pulled it out, and I was looking at it and communicating right off the cuff at that moment.
So what you did, what you're saying to me, Mr. Lake, is, since you must agree with me that that was sort of a silly thing to say, I have two 20s to pay for a $4 item or a 50. I mean, that was kind of ridiculous, right? Mr. Lake, is that kind of ridiculous to say I have two 20s to pay for a $4 item or I have a $50 bill?
That's the items that I pulled out. That's the cash I had on hand.
Well, who cares what cash you had? What if you had a $1,000 bill? She doesn't care what cash you had on hand. You had a 20 and a 50. You could have paid with either one.
I had a couple
so
of 20s.
Can you say, did you ever say I made a mistake? Did you ever say that in your life?
Often.
Very good. Well, so you made a mistake. You should have said, I just have a 20 and a 50. Can you cash the 50?
Well, if I had more time, if it wasn't a rush situation, maybe I would have.
Now we're getting there, Mr. Lake.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Do I look like I need help?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Shannon McConnell, a supermarket cashier, disputes Donald Lake's accusations that he was shortchanged.
So you made a mistake because it was rushed, because you were taking out your money fast, because you had somebody waiting for you, and there were a lot of people behind you waiting to get checked out. So you made a mistake. Why wouldn't you give this young lady, and I haven't heard from her yet, the benefit of the doubt? Why do you ascribe to her malevolence, criminal activity, when it could have been an honest mistake?
That's a very good question.
I'm waiting for your very good answer. Now you're taking time to think about it, Mr. Lake, because you're going to think about a good response to me.
I can tell you right now, 2 good responses.
Yes.
Response number 1, she counted back $50, not $40, in her count back. Number 2, a few minutes later, she denies ever having the $50 bill in the first place.
Okay,
And she said right then and there, oh, you know, if she'd apologized, if she would have helped me confer with the manager. I mean, up until I got the money back that night, she was fighting the manager. If she would have admitted her mistake, that would have been fine.
Mr. Lake, you don't think as a consumer you made a mistake by taking the money when she counted out the money and not looking at it? Not saying, I gave her a $50 bill, let me just check my change, instead of taking your change and just putting it in your pocket. Don't you have any responsibility to do that right at that moment?
Whatever responsibility I had with that, I took care of it as soon as possible.
No, you didn't. If you had taken care of it immediately while you were right there, you would have said, look, right, the bill right there on top, that $50 is mine. Instead, you walk out of the store after she counted out your money. Then you come back a half hour later, after you've made another purchase someplace else, and say, now, Christmas Eve, I want you to remember that I gave you a $50 bill. Hold it. Go.
From the beginning?
Well, if there's anything that he's left out from the beginning, I'd like to hear you.
Okay, when we went to the cash line, it was extremely busy.
How long have you been working at this store?
Since 1985. Well, not this particular store, for the company since 85. After I checked him out, I went on a 10-minute break. After I came back from the break, I went to another register. So when he approached me, he didn't ask me in a calm manner. He came up screaming a 20, a 10, and a 5, and a 1, saying that that's a change I gave him. Asked if he'd taken any 50s lately, being that I had just returned from a break, maybe 10, 15 minutes. I was on a new register where his 50 would have been on the old register, so I didn't recognize him from the prior exchange, because they had been so busy. I had hundreds of customers that day. I didn't recognize him, so I thought the only thing that came to mind was maybe he was wanting a nice, clean $50 bill to give as a gift. So I was saying, I don't think so, but I can check. And as I'm saying, I can check and see if there's one in the drawer. That's when he started going as 20, a 10, and a 5, and a 1. And then at that point, the manager came over to see what the commotion was about. The manager did not argue. I did not argue because I didn't know what it was about. The manager took the receipt, said, you were short of $10. He said yes. He took him over to the courtesy desk. At that time, he just gave him the $10, no questions asked, really. It was a matter of minutes till he got his $10 back. And at that point, Mr. Lake took the $10, waving it in the air, screaming, don't go through Shannon's line. She has my money. She'll take your money.
Did you do that, sir?
Not all of those things.
Yes, sir.
I did some of them.
Ma'am, this is Jackie here.
Were you there that evening?
Yes, when her and I came back from our breaks, just coincidentally at about the same time, she opened up on the register right next to me, and the way our registers are set up is her customers' backs are to me, and my back is to them. Okay, so I heard a 20, a 10, real loud, and I turned around, stopped checking, turned around, and looked at Shannon, and then he goes up to the service desk with the manager and gets his $10. He has it in his hand, waving it. She stole my money. I mean, Christmas Eve is the second busiest day of the year. I've been working there for 22 years. I've never seen anything like this before in my life, the whole time. And he was waving the $10, saying she stole it. The customers eventually, he was there for probably 5 to 7 minutes, yelling and carrying on in front of the store. So all of her fellow employees heard every check stand was open. All the customers were, it was very busy. Him saying it wasn't that busy, relatively. Anyway, so the customers finally started saying, we don't want you here. Go back to where you came from. We like our store. We like Shannon. And he left. That's how it was. I saw the whole thing. I stopped checking to watch it because I've never seen anything like it.
Shannon, how many times have you been to court with regard to this case?
This is my third time.
Tell me about the first 2 times.
The first time I went,
You were served with a summons?
Yes. I went.
What was he suing for that?
The first time was criminal and commercial theft, deceit, and fraud. That was the first one. I went there, and Mr. Lake failed to appear. I thought that was the end of it. I thought maybe he realized that this was a ridiculous case, and that was it.
Which court did you go to?
San Diego, Claremont.
Does that sound familiar to you, sir, that you filed a case there?
Yes, it did, and she was not serviced.
Just a second.
There was no service done.
I was there when he served the papers, and you did serve her, and you stood behind her and watched her check for about 10 minutes after you served her. You served her personally.
And
I stood
Just
there
a second.
watched you.
Just a second. And did you serve her?
No, I cannot serve. Service
Exactly.
must be done.
Hey, just listen to me. Just a second. You served her. You gave her the papers.
Yes, I did, and that is not service. Service must be a third party.
So why did you
Just
serve me?
Hey! Do I look like I need help? Do I look like I need help?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You're really ticking me off, sir. You're really ticking me off, sir.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Donald Lake, the former educator, wants supermarket checker Shannon McConnell to pay for his trouble when he claims he was shortchanged at her supermarket.
Mr. Lake, so let me understand this, sir. You did, in fact, give her papers with regard to this first suit that she's talking about. But
Yes, I did.
And what you're saying is that it's a question of semantics, because since you, as a party, cannot serve her, a third party must serve her. It was invalid service, and therefore she was not served.
Also, ma'am.
Am I right?
That's correct.
Good. Now,
And-
say nothing. You're really ticking me off, sir. You're really ticking me off, sir. So you didn't appear in that action because you say she wasn't served. Is that correct?
That's partially correct.
Did you appear in that action?
No, I did not.
Then I'm correct.
You're partially correct.
I'm always correct, sir. The question is, she went to court because she was given papers. She's not a lawyer. She doesn't know that if a third person doesn't serve, it's not considered good service, so she didn't want to be in default. She went to court, and you didn't.
Also, the paperwork was given to Shannon M. I was trying to find out her last name so that she could be serviced correctly.
All right, so now we have one lawsuit that you filed that you didn't follow through with, and she went. When was the next lawsuit?
The next one was 2 months later. We went again, and at that point, we found out that not only did he have my court case, he had 2 other cases in the courtroom next door. Obviously can't be in 2 courtrooms at one time, so he denied having the pro tem hear our case. So perhaps you could go to the other cases. So
Let me understand this so that I make it simple. When you showed up in court on the next court date after you were properly served, I assume, Mr. Lake, you had 3 actions pending on the same day. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And you had to choose which case you would hear that day because you couldn't be in 2 courtrooms at the same time. So you said, I don't want a lay judge to hear my case. In her case, adjourn it to another day. Is that what happened?
No, ma'am.
Then let me hear.
I said I don't want a lay judge, a person who is not culpable to the performance review board on any of my cases. That is a constitutional right.
And this is the 3rd case. Is
Yes,
that
ma'am.
correct? Are you ready?
I think so.
Are you ready?
Judge Judy is ready to rule. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy.
Mr. Lake, in the year and a half that I've been handling cases in this court, I have never imposed the judicial sanction of fines for abusive process, fines that have been paid to the court for wasting court time. Now, I am dismissing your lawsuit because your lawsuit is frivolous. And not only is it frivolous, but this is the 3rd time that you have abused the people of this state by taking up judicial time and manpower in filing it. There is no question that there was, based upon what I've heard, an honest mistake. You, sir, are a suer, which means you like to sue people. And maybe you get off on that, but I'm telling you right now that the judicial system in this country will not tolerate those people who abuse it, because if you abuse it, people who have a real case can't get court time because the courts are clogged with this kind of frivolous nonsense. Now, say nothing, Mr. Lake. You already said too much. Now, with regard to this lawsuit, her counterclaim, I'm awarding you. You are asking for $1,400. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And I'm also going to exercise my discretion and award you $2,500. All right? And I am imposing sanctions, Mr. Lake, costs upon you that are to be paid to the court in the amount of $500, because you have abused me, and I resent it. Not only have you abused her, but I resent the fact that you have abused the court system. That's all.
Step out. Yeah, this is case number 60 on the calendar in the matter of Peters versus Peters. Judge, the parties have been sworn in. You may be seated.
Thank you. Well, Mr. and Mrs. Peters, you've been married for 6 years, and you're in the process of divorcing. According to your papers, I think that you've both agreed that your marriage is going to be over, despite the fact that I get some sense in these papers that you still care about each other, that your lives are going in different directions. And you come before me today because there is certain property that you have agreed to permit me to resolve with regard to the issue of ownership. Correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And once those issues of property are resolved, then the divorce process will be a relatively easy one.
Yes.
Yes.
Take a deep breath. Are you nervous?
A little.
Okay. Mrs. Peters, according to your complaint, there are 3 items at issue.
Right.
There is a car.
Right, the car.
What kind of car is it?
It's a 1993 Geostorm GSI. And then the issue of my cat and my dog, he gave my cat away. And we had decided that I would...
So there's a dog?
Yes.
Because the cat's gone?
Yes. And then also we have some videos that we...
Some personal videos that he has that you would like back?
Well, I would
like it destroyed?
Yes.
Okay. Let's start with the car, because my sense is that the car is, in the area of emotions, the easiest thing to resolve.
That's correct.
Is that right?
That's correct.
Now, the car is in your name,
Yes, ma'am.
but she pays for it.
That is correct.
How did that come about?
Because when Chris and I had moved to California together, for a while he wasn't working, and I had paid some of his car payments, just 2 of them, so that I was afraid he was going to leave me if he couldn't pay his bills and I go back to Colorado, and I didn't want him to go back, so I paid that. And then I got sick afterwards, and I got really behind on my bills, so my car got repossessed, so I ended up filing for bankruptcy.
I don't believe you paid my car payments.
Yes, I did. I
Well,
did twice.
that's really not particularly relevant, because what we're here for is for resolution, not to revisit bad moments.
So anyway,
Does that
that's
sound
why.
right to you?
Yes.
So you had bad credit,
Yes.
but you needed a car,
Yes, Your Honor.
and you helped her.
Yes, ma'am. I told her, I says, now if I sign for this car, you have to promise me that you're going to make your payments on time and you're not going to make this a liability to me.
So you said, I'll sign for it, but promise that you'll make the
Make your
payments
payments.
faithfully and on time.
That's correct, Your Honor.
You don't mind if I help you out a little bit?
No, not a
because I
bit.
got other cases to do today.
Thank you.
Okay. How much more time has to go on this car loan?
About a year and a half.
And how long was the car loan? 5 years?
Yes.
And you would agree, Mr. Peters, that she has made, even though some of the payments were late, she's made all the payments.
That's correct, Your Honor.
So there really isn't much of an issue about that. When you separated, you took the car.
Yes.
So
well,
the
the issue is the collection agents keep coming to me wanting those payments because they're always late.
They are not, I'm sorry. Sorry, Your Honor, but they're not always late.
Well, I got just this notice right here that she's behind 2 payments.
I'm not behind 2
Let
payments.
me ask you this question, Mr. Peters. How would you like to resolve this fairly with regard to the car? Let me see what your suggestion is.
Well, I would like to be able to sign it over in her name, but that's impossible because they won't do it because of her credit. So I think that she should at least reimburse me maybe half of what the car is worth, and that way.
How's that going to help you?
Well, my car is about ready to go.
How do you think it would be reasonable to resolve this issue? Because what you're really asking is you're asking him to sign the title of the car over to you, and yet he has the liability.
Yes, ma'am.
I've made all the payments up to now. I'm not going to stop making the payments.
Well, I know that because you're driving the car. But if you do stop making the payments, that means they're going to come after him or repossess the car.
I would never stop making the payments.
Mm-hmm.
I've already paid over $12,000 on that car, Your Honor. I'm not going to stop making the payments. Plus, I paid his car insurance until this year so that he could have car insurance because he didn't want to have
That's
car
not
insurance.
true. You left me with $1,500 worth of bills, and
Chris, that is so not true.
and I paid the last 2 months of your insurance.
Okay. How much is this car worth now, approximately?
$7,000.
Is that about right?
Yes, that's correct.
Do you have the last statement that you received on the car?
I just have one of the bill that's owed right here.
Can I see it, please? Well, it says this payment, you are delinquent by 1 month.
Actually, that will be true on the 26th. But I'm going to make the payment before the 26th.
Okay. Give me a minute. You still owe a lot of money on this car.
About $6,200, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
She's probably paid about $2,000 in overcharges by now.
No, I have not, Chris.
Well, she's paid for a long time. I mean, you have had the car for, if she's had the car for 4 years, if she's had the car for 4 years.
But every time she's late a payment, Your
I
Honor,
am not every time late a payment, Chris.
Just don't fight with each other. You don't have
Sorry.
to fight with each other anymore. You're getting a divorce. The fighting is over.
Later on Judge Judy.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am.
And you want it destroyed?
Yes, I do.
You want to keep it?
Yes, ma'am.
That's sick.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. 34-year-old Chris Peters is divorcing his wife Kelly because she won't give up her exotic dancing career. They have asked Judge Judy to arbitrate their dispute over their pets, their car, and their intimate home video.
Mr. Peters, I'm going to suggest to you that for the purposes of liability and everything else, that you sign this car over to her so that the car is in her name. You, of course, always have the recourse of suing her in a small claims arena. You don't have to go through lawyers or anything else. You know she doesn't have money now.
Yes, ma'am.
My alternatives are to force her to sell the car, satisfy your loan, and then she'd have $800 left. Because if the car is worth $7,000 and there's $6,200 left to pay on the loan, that would put her in a position of not being able to be employed, really, because she wouldn't have a way of getting back and forth to work. I assume you drive to work.
Yes, I do.
Now, you've been married for 6 years. Are you employed on a regular basis?
Yes, I am, Your Honor.
You have a weekly paycheck?
The small one.
Okay. You are not, I assume, Ms. Peters, in your divorce action seeking support from him. Is that correct?
Of course not.
Because you're working.
Mm-hmm.
So I want you to look at the long-term picture, Mr. Peters. This car is your insurance. Your insurance that when this whole divorce action is finalized, your wife is not going to ask for support from you because she's not working because she didn't have a car to get to work. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So what it really means is for the next year while this car loan is being paid off, you'll have to sweat it a little bit to make sure, that she's going to make the car payments. You also can feel confident that after all the money she's paid for the car, it is unlikely that she's going to allow the car to be repossessed. I'm telling you right now, if you don't make your payments, the first thing they do is come and get the car. So, Mr. Peters, you're going to sign the car over to her. That way, when your divorce is over, everything's going to be finished. Is that a good idea?
That's fine, Your Honor.
All right, good. So, that was the unemotional part of this dispute. Now, let's get to the dog. The dog's name is Breezy.
Yes.
Breezy is, according to your papers, a boxer.
Yep.
Is that a
Yes.
picture of Breezy?
No, this is a picture of my cat that he gave away without my permission.
Okay.
We'll get to the cat.
Yes, we will.
That's a picture of Breezy.
Yes, ma'am.
According to your papers, Miss Peters, you had a cat and a dog.
Yes.
You had Mac, the cat.
Yes.
Breezy, the dog.
Right.
And why don't you tell me about the arrangement with the cat and the dog when you separated in November?
Okay. We had agreed that I would take the cat, Mac, and I would let him keep Breezy, even though I didn't really want to let him keep Breezy because she's my dog too, and I love her, and I'm the one that took care of her, paid for her food most of the time, took her to the vet, all that stuff.
You agreed that you would keep the cat and he would keep the dog.
Right, and because I can't have the cat where I'm living right now, he had promised that he would keep Mackie for me until I could get my own place. And I thought that instead of taking Mac at the time and having him stay at a friend's house or having my sister keep him, it would be less traumatic for Mac if he stayed in his own house with his own yard until I could come get him. And he looked me in the eye and promised me that he would take good care of Mac.
The same way she looked me in the eye and promised me she'd make all her payments on time.
Oh,
Mr.
God.
Peters.
I did promise and looked her in the eyes about the cat, and then I'd keep it for her. But sometimes when you get...
So what happened with the cat?
The cat kept urinating all over the house and on my clothes and stuff, and I finally...
Coming up on Judge Judy.
It was totally done just for the two of us. I've never made that kind of video with anyone ever before. And I just did it for him.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Mr. and Mrs. Christopher Peters are in the middle of a divorce, but they have come before Judge Judy to settle custody of their pets, a car, and a personal home video.
Why didn't you call your wife and say, listen, I'm giving away the cat. You want the cat, come and get it?
Because I knew that the cat needed a home, a good home, and Kelly wasn't prepared. She just left the cat. If she was so concerned about Breezy and the cat, then she should have done something before she left.
Okay.
She shouldn't have
Mr.
just left
Peters.
it up to me.
Mr. Peters, you didn't answer my question.
Why didn't I
Why
call
didn't
Kelly?
you, at that moment,
Because I was
pick up
pissed
the...
off.
Right. That's honest. There you go. Okay.
And
That's
I was
honest.
using, and I was thinking, I was thinking that, you know, it was her fault and stuff. And I was sorry. After I gave the cat away, I tried to get the cat back because I realized how much it really meant to Kelly, you know. But at the time of the anger of the moment,
Okay.
I hated the cat.
That's,
so.
just a second. That's honest, Mr. Peters. Shh. That's honest.
Okay.
Well, so now, Mrs. Peters, your husband acknowledges that he got rid of the cat because the cat was soiling all over the house.
But, Your Honor, it's because he didn't clean out his box.
Whatever. For whatever reason. He didn't like the cat. Maybe he looked at the cat as an extension of you. Is that a possibility?
Maybe.
He acknowledges that he was wrong. That's a step. That's not a reason for me to say that you're entitled to the dog.
And I'm sorry I gave away the cat.
Good. Did you hear that?
Yes.
I am sorry.
Because, you know, it's like he did some... The dog has been with him. The dog has always been with him for the last 9 months. The dog has been with him, living in a place where the dog is accustomed to living. There's a certain routine. So if I were to say, well, you gave away the cat, now I'm going to give her the dog, who I'm really punishing is this dog who had very... You know, dog didn't have anything to do with getting rid of the cat. So that wouldn't be fair, would it? Mrs.
Well,
Peters, would
the
that
dog
be
lives-
fair to the dog?
No, probably
Right.
not.
You're right. It would not be fair to the dog. It's like saying if you have a child and there's a divorce, and if one parent acted badly about something, you punish that parent by saying, well, I'm going to limit your visitation with the child. Because that's punishing the child. It's not only punishing the party, but it's punishing the child for something that the child had no control over. This dog is used to living in a particular place. How old is the dog?
3 years.
So for 3 years, lived in the same place, same home, it's got a yard, whatever. Does it?
Yeah, it's got
Got
a
a
big
yard, has a routine.
She's real happy too, Your Honor.
And there's really no reason for me to uproot the dog because he made a mistake.
Well,
Yes, I did.
He made a mistake. He apologized for it. It was not the right thing to do. So the dog stays with him.
Chris, thank you, Your Honor.
Now, the last thing that we're going to address is this video. Ms. Peters, it's your position that this was a rather intimate video that you and your husband took as husband and wife for fun, for whatever. Is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
And you want it destroyed.
Yes, I do.
Your position is you want to keep it.
Yes, ma'am, I do.
Well, I have a couple of questions to ask you, sir.
Okay.
Have you ever shown this video to anyone?
No, ma'am, I would never show it to anyone else.
Okay, so you want to keep this for yourself?
Yes, ma'am.
That's sick. Very sick.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
It's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your Honor, it's very graphic.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Kelly Peters, an exotic dancer, and her husband Chris Peters are divorcing. Judge Judy is deciding what happens to their intimate home video.
There is no reason that I can think of for divorced people to keep pictures, videos, photos of each other that the other party might find embarrassing.
Well, there's nothing embarrassing about it. It was just, you know, I mean, it's like, I love Callie. I'm always going to love her. And it's just, I mean, it's not as nasty or whatever that you want to think. I mean,
Your
it was
Honor, it's very graphic.
Just a second. I don't want to hear about it. I thought I was being very...
Sorry.
I thought I was being very circumspect about it. I said that there was an intimate thing done with...
I have
between
many
us.
other videos of her, too. I mean, that's not in the same category,
This is what she wants. This is the one that offends you, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Bell, I'm going to say this to you one more time, sir, and listen to me very carefully. When you divorce, if you're lucky, you're left with certain pleasant memories that you try not to forget. You know, you had good times with your wife. It just so happens that in your case, after 6 years, your lives have taken a different path. She doesn't want to have to worry about these photographs, these videos, falling into anybody else's hands. God forbid you're out in a car and your car is in a wreck and you are there comatose and your mother goes through your things and she says, I wonder if these are pictures of Chris when he was out skiing. And your mother plays this video. Do you understand what I'm saying, sir? You know, it's one of the reasons why people are always supposed to wear clean underwear all the time and keep their houses neat. You never can tell what's going to happen. There are all kinds of situations that I can conceive of where even if you don't intend something to happen, this can fall into the wrong hands. Someone can burglarize your house. That's a possibility. Isn't that a possibility?
I don't think they'd find the tape.
They're certainly not going to find it, sir, because there isn't going to be a tape.
So there's nothing I can say because...
There is absolutely nothing, sir, that you can say to me that would satisfy me that there is any logical, rational basis for you maintaining anything that might prove embarrassing to her. And if she had something that might prove embarrassing to you, I can guarantee you, sir, it would be in my possession if it was the subject of this litigation, and it would be destroyed.
Do you?
No, of course I don't.
Good. Officer Byrd, you and I are going to take care of this video in the back. Okay. Mr. and Mrs. Peters, listen to me. It's resolved. This is going to be destroyed. It's going to be destroyed within the next 5 minutes. Officer Byrd and I are going to have fun. We're going to create a little bonfire in my chambers. Now, then you don't have to worry about it anymore, Mrs. Peters. So let us see how we resolve this case. The Geo.
Yes, ma'am.
Is going to be registered in your name. The dog, Breezy, sir, is yours.
Thank you.
The video is mine. This case is over. Thank you.
Thank you.
Parties are excused. You may step out. Out the back door to your right, please. Judges number 36 on the calendar in the matter of Cooper versus Campbell. All parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
Well, this case presents a serious problem that a lot of working people have, especially working moms, who have to find appropriate daycare for their children. According to this complaint, Ms. Campbell, you hired the plaintiff to take care of your children while you were working.
That's correct.
How long did she care for your children?
I believe a little over 2 years. I'm not exactly sure.
And how many children did she care for?
She cared for 2 of my children. I have only 2 children.
How old are they? Your son who's 5.
My son is 5, and my daughter who's here today as a witness, she is 7.
And there came a time when you became dissatisfied with her service. According to your answer, terminated the service. But according to your complaint, she did not pay you for the last month. Is that correct?
Correct.
Which was $450.
Correct.
So, let me hear what happened.
I provided a service to Mrs. Campbell for the month of April. There had been problems previously for months with her son having uncontrollable bowel movements, and I had suggested several times on occasion for her to have him evaluated, and she disregarded that.
Oh, that's not true.
Just a second.
And you know it.
According to these papers, Ms. Cooper, you were aware of the fact that her son had some serious problems.
Right.
What kind of problems does he have?
My son is learning disabled. We believe he has ADHD, and also he's been diagnosed with stress-related seizure disorder.
And according to your papers, he did have a couple of grand mal seizures.
He's had 2 grand mal seizures. The first occurred the first day of preschool. The second occurred in Carrie Cooper's residence.
And the ADHD is attention deficit
Hyperactivity.
Attention
deficit.
Attention deficit hyperactivity disorder.
Correct.
And you were aware of that he had
yes.
these problems. So he soiled himself while in your care.
Right.
Twice.
Twice? No, this has been going on. It was
No, it was the 3rd time. It was the 3rd time.
It was more than 3 occasions.
No, it wasn't.
Don't interrupt. So what happened on the day that precipitated this
was
lawsuit?
At 3 p.m., April 30th. I proceeded to call Kathy at her place of employment.
At 3 o'clock, the little boy soiled himself.
Right.
And you called her at her job.
Yes.
What
and
time
asked-
does she usually come to pick up the children?
5 o'clock.
Okay.
So I proceeded to ask her if she could make arrangements for somebody to come pick him up.
No, you didn't.
Listen, I'm going to get to you in a second.
I called her, notified her of the problem, asked if somebody could come pick him up. I didn't have another diaper to change him or a change of clothes. She said he would have to stay like that.
You're not helping yourself.
Okay.
Okay?
He would have to stay like that until she got there. At which time, I put him in the hallway because I have tile there. I have carpet everywhere else. I put him in the hallway to wait for his mother.
How did you put him in the hallway?
I just had him sit on the floor in the hallway.
Well, describe this place to me.
Okay, my front door, then the hallway, then you go into my living room. The hallway is all tile. And I had him sit there instead of the carpet so my carpet wouldn't get soiled.
Do you have any children?
Yes, I do. I have 1 child.
Boy or a girl?
Girl.
How old?
5.
Well, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Why didn't you take off those soiled clothes from the little boy? And at least for the 2 hours that he was waiting, why didn't you put on a pair of your daughter's overalls, something?
I just did when I called her and asked her to come get him, I did what she told me to do.
No, Miss Cooper. I'm talking about humanity. I'm not talking about what she told you to do. She called her at work and you said somebody has to come and get him. Well, this is 3 o'clock in the afternoon. It's not easy on a moment's notice to get somebody to come over and pick up the boy. These were children that you had watched for 2 years. You have a child of similar age, who I'm sure has a pair of sweatpants, because girls always have sweatpants, just like boys do. Take off the diaper or the pull-ups that he was wearing. I don't know, burn them, do whatever you want to do with them. And in the meantime, until she gets there, put something of your daughter's on. Why couldn't you do that? Instead of putting him out in the hallway.
Since I started watching the kids, he was potty trained. I never agreed on changing diapers. She knew of the problem. She knew that I wasn't going to do that. That's why every time it happened, I called her at work, and either her husband or herself would come pick him up.
What do you mean you never agreed? Children have accidents.
I understand that.
And you mean if a child has an accident, you don't take care of that?
Yes, I do.
Well, then so what was the problem here? If you wanted to terminate this and say, listen, after today, I'm not taking care of him anymore, I could understand that. My problem, Ms. Cooper, is it's very traumatic for a child. I know I've had children, and It's very traumatic for a child to be left that way, humiliated in a hallway alone. A 5-year-old understands, has the cognitive ability to understand what you're doing. It seems to me there's a certain lack of humanity in not taking care of the problem and then saying, at the end of the day, Miss Campbell, I can't, I won't, I don't want to take care of your children anymore because this is a problem that I don't want to have to deal with.
I had told her that 2 weeks prior to that.
But still, you continue to take care of the children, right?
Right.
But you can say, I'm not going to do it anymore without taking it out on the child. The child is the one who's traumatized. She may feel very badly about her son, but it's the child himself who's left with that feeling, that terrible moment of being in a hallway because he soiled himself, especially when he has the kinds of problems that this little boy has. Who's wrong? All right, Miss Campbell, I see you're real upset.
I want to tell you, first of all, she handed me his clothes in a clean bag. The difference between the other two incidents and this, he was wearing a pull-up. All she had to do was take off the pull-up and clean him up, put his clean clothes back on him. She's lying. Those clothes were in a bag. My daughter's here. She knows the story. When I walked up, he was standing by the front door. The neighborhood children had gathered, and they were laughing at my son. I will never in my life forget the look on his face.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
My son is going into therapy June 19th for what she did to him, okay? It wasn't a safe environment at all.
And later today,
You owe me my money. Or you gotta pay me.
Well, I'm not going to pay you because you still owe me.
real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Bennett Campbell says her babysitter, Carrie Cooper, neglected her 5-year-old son, and so she refuses to pay the fee.
He was standing in the hallway like she said, but you could see him. I could see him in the corner with his head down. When he came out to me, his pull-up had been on him for 2 hours. It was sagging. He had only a T-shirt on. She had just bagged up his clean clothes because she simply did not want to deal with the situation.
Those weren't clean clothes.
They were clean clothes.
Sir.
I'm sorry, Your Honor. I had to say something.
Well, then you step up here. You want to come up here and say something? I'll hear you.
They were not. They were soiled clothes from days
Stop.
before.
Miss Campbell, Miss Campbell, why don't you say anything?
She doesn't bring diapers. She had bring clothes before, but they had been soiled in prior. That's why they were in a plastic bag.
What's your name, sir?
I'm Tom.
Tom what?
DeLeo.
Mr. DeLeo. You were home when this happened?
Yes.
You have children, sir?
Yeah, her daughter's my daughter.
You know how protective people are of their children?
Yes, I do.
Miss Campbell is protective of her child. You are particularly protective of a child who has a disability.
We were protective of her kids, too.
No, Mr. DeLeo. You're not protective of a child, sir, if you don't take care of that child.
Well, it's
the
not
same way that you would take care of your own child, and you would not leave your daughter in that situation. And if you would not leave your daughter in that situation, you don't leave a child entrusted to your care in that situation.
I want to say, when she made that phone call to me, if I had known that my son was going to go through this, you better believe I would have picked him up. I never intended for this to happen to him.
Had you always paid her on time?
Yes. Yes, ma'am, I did.
And you paid her at the end of the month?
Yes.
For the preceding month?
Correct.
Now, you know that she took care of, by the way, did you report this incident?
Yes, I have. I filed a police report, which I have a copy. Tom DeLeo is also involved. I want to explain to you this. When my children got into the car, both of them at the same time told me, Mommy, Mommy, Tom hit Josh in the head. Tom hit Josh in the head. Then Josh told me, no, you know what? Jenna's going to tell you. Then Josh told me his feet hurt, and that's when I asked him, were you in the corner all this time? And Josh said yes. I have filed reports with community care licensing. I have filed a police report. I have filed a police report. Child abuse registry is currently investigating that. Anaheim Police is awaiting their report.
Okay, well, that's a good idea. What's your name?
Jenna. Jenna.
Jenna? Is your name Jenna? I have a little granddaughter whose name is Jenna. She's 2.5. Jenna, would you like to come up here and talk to me for a minute?
Watch your step. See you, Jenna.
Hi.
Hi.
Jenna, do you remember that day when your brother had a problem? Yes? Well, would you tell me what happened? You look at me and tell me.
Well, I came home. I came to my babysitter's house. She picked me up from the bus stop, and then we had to do my homework, me and my friend, and then we ate our snack, and then we played the monkey game, and then it was time for Joshua to get up, and then
He had been sleeping?
Yeah. And he did an accident.
While he in his pants while he was sleeping? Okay, so what happened then?
And then Carrie put him in the corner for 2 hours, and then he told me that...
Who's Carrie?
She.
She. That's Carrie? She put him in the corner?
And then he told me that Tom hit him in the head because he hit Ashley on accident.
Oh, so that Tom hitting him on the head had to do with an argument that their little girl was having with your brother. So he said he hit him on the head because he hit Ashley. Joshua hit Ashley. I see. It didn't have anything to do with him soiling his pants that he got hit in the head, right? Is that right? Good. Anything else you want to tell me? Has it always been okay at this babysitter's for you? Up until this happened? She's a pretty nice babysitter? Yeah. She takes care of you okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You never had any complaints before, did you? No? You have a new babysitter now? You like the new babysitter? Want to go back to your seat? Okay. Okay, so at least we found out about this hitting on the head. It didn't really have anything to do
No,
with
but
this
how appropriate is it to hit a child with stress-related
Kathy,
seizure
I
disorder
never
in the
hit
head?
Josh in the head.
listen.
No way.
Listen.
That's what my children told me.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
I have nightmares over what my Joshua went through for 2.5 hours. You're pathetic and you make me sick.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Catherine Bennett Campbell says her babysitter, Carrie Cooper, neglected her 5-year-old son, and so she refuses to pay the fee.
This was an unfortunate incident.
Extremely.
I absolutely agree with you. But it appears from what your daughter has said, and even what you have said to me previously, that this was a babysitter that you had used for 2 years and who had taken good care of your kids. I don't think you would have left your children with her if she didn't. I find, Miss Cooper, that your behavior on that day was really inexcusable. The issue is, does that mean that you don't have to pay her for the whole month? And you do, because that was your arrangement. You have to pay her for the month that she watched your children. I certainly think that you did the appropriate thing by issuing the reports that you did, because I think that her actions were callous in what you did with your boy. She exercised very poor judgment. I'm telling you that you exercised very poor judgment. But this is a court of law. You had a contract. Your contract provided that you were supposed to be paid $450 for watching these children. You would watch them for an entire month prior to this incident. So the judgment in this case is simple. It's for the plaintiff in the amount of $450. That's all.
Parties are excused. You may step out.
I hope you're proud of what you did with my son.
Step out the back door to your right, please.
I think you're pathetic, and I think you should not be watching children, and I think you better take some parenting classes, and you need to find some compassion.
Parenting classes.
Oh, honey, I'm in parenting classes to deal with the problems my son has because
Your son
of you.
had problems before
That's correct,
me.
and you knew about it. You knew.
Parties on Richardson versus Amos. Step forward, please.
29-year-old dancer Denise Richardson says she loaned her brother-in-law, Lavasta Amos, $95 to rent a truck, and he never paid her back.
All right, Miss Richardson, you say that Mr. Amos owes you $95. You want to tell me how that came about, please?
I don't know about it in March. My niece called her father asking me to help.
Your niece?
My niece.
That's his daughter?
My sister's daughter, yes.
Okay. This is the father?
Yes.
Your niece called you and said...
Asked me if I could rent a rider truck for them to move. So it was
For
just...
whom?
For her father and her.
Okay.
And it was just for me to put it on my credit card, for them to just have a deposit, you know, to hold a truck, and then they were supposed to make the payment.
They were supposed to pay in cash?
They were supposed to pay in cash, yes, ma'am.
So you said?
No problem. I went down. I had to sign, show my ID. He wasn't present, but his wife, Tammy, was. I said, are you sure you're going to pay? She said, yes, we're going to pay. We're going to bring the truck back this evening, and we're going to pay. So I had to go to work, and I went ahead and left the matters in their hand.
So they put the $95 on your credit card, and they never paid for it in cash?
Yes, ma'am.
How you doing?
Yes?
How you doing this morning?
I'm doing fine. Let's get down to business. Do you owe this lady $95?
Yes, I do.
So why are you here?
Well, basically, it's like that happened when I did have the money. She wasn't in town. She was out of state. So I ended up spending the money. So when she came back, I told her...
Just a minute. You rented the truck.
Yes.
And you had the money.
Yes.
In cash.
Yes. No, not at the time that she rented the truck.
That's what you told me.
So then you got the money.
You're right.
How much later did you get the money?
It was about a week later.
So why didn't you send it to her?
I didn't have her address for her. Plus, when I had the money, she was gone out of state.
Actually, the money was supposed to be paid that day. The credit card was only to hold the truck because you can't get one without a credit card. He was supposed to pay that day, either that night or the next morning they dropped off the truck.
No, because I told her I didn't have the money, because if I did, I would have gave her the money that day.
If that was the case, I would have never let him rent a truck on my credit card, knowing he may have done that to me.
If she knew
I assume you have the money
money
today. Listen, I assume you have the money today.
No, I do not.
Well, you better get it. Do you work?
Yes, I do. But she owed me.
She owes you for what?
Well, back on March the 22nd, or at the end of March, my daughter babysitted her kids. Her kids got out of hand one time, and they was just basically running in and out the dining area where my cabinet was, and they ended up breaking my champagne glasses for a wedding.
That was never. I never did know anything about it.
I told her about it.
March?
And yes, when Toya kept the kids that day.
Just a second.
And I told her that the glasses cost $150. It was our wedding champagne. It was engraved with her name on it and everything. She said she was going to pay me back.
This is all new to me. I've never even heard this.
Mr. Amos, that really has no... You can't set off, sir. What you're looking to do is set off the champagne glasses for the $95 that you owe her. Let me tell you this. If
it has nothing to do with that. I mean, you know, it's like she said she was going to pay me. That's just like the same thing I'm supposed to pay her. I'm going to pay her and she ain't paying me.
Judge Judy is ready to rule.
Well, I want to tell you something. I'm not deciding that lawsuit with the broken champagne glasses, but if I was deciding that lawsuit, this would be my decision. Pay careful attention. Your daughter, who is how old?
She's 16 now.
She assumed the responsibility of taking care of these two children. It was her responsibility to see to it that the two children were supervised at all times, and if there was anything in the house that could be broken or whatever, it was her responsibility to see to it that those things were out of harm's way. Do you understand?
Yeah, but I had told her kids several times to stay out the dining area. They were supposed to have been in the play area.
Then what you have to do is tell your daughter, who would assume the responsibility for those children, to take the children outside. Do you understand?
But it was at night.
Hey, Mr. Amos, you got an answer for every question. You owe her the money. Period. End of discussion. Judgment in this case is for the plaintiff in the amount of $95. Thank you.
Parties are excused. 6 on the calendar in the matter of Palmer versus Palmer. All parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, please.
This is a pretty sad situation.
Very sad.
Mr. Palmer, this is your daughter, Vanessa. Vanessa, how old are you?
17.
And you're suing your daughter, Mr. Palmer, because you say that she left your home. And when she left, she took a car that had been purchased, and she owes you money for the car. You either want the car back or you want her to start paying you the money for the car. And she left your home under very unfortunate conditions. So I have a few questions, and then we're going to try to resolve this. Okay?
Okay.
All right, Vanessa?
Okay.
Now, when's your birthday?
August 28th.
You say you bought the car, you say for her, but she was supposed to make payments on the car.
Yes.
No, he bought the car for my birthday and because I got a job. And he told me to tell my friends that I had to pay him back so they wouldn't get jealous. But he told me it was for my birthday.
Could you both come up here for a minute? Mr. Palmer, I don't know what could motivate a parent other than anger to bring their 17-year-old to court. I'm sure it's not the money, right? Because her birthday, this car was bought almost a year ago, correct?
Correct.
And for a year, you didn't pay any money, right? You seem to acknowledge that.
Yes.
So why now?
Because over the past year, I had been asking when this was the only obligation that I asked of her throughout the entire period was that I will get a car for you. She wanted a brand new one, but I was not going to co-sign to purchase.
Which I would have been paying for.
To purchase a brand new car. Furthermore, going to school and working part-time, I really feel that it's not in your budget. So what I said I would do is purchase the car for her, pay cash. This eliminates finance charges. Also, you would only have to have the liability insurance, and I feel that it would best fit.
How much did you pay for the car?
It was around $900. Then,
so it wasn't an expensive car, and then it was in an accident, according to your papers. It took some fixing
it
up.
was stolen.
Or it was stolen
Right.
and it was trashed or something, and you had to pay some money to fix it.
correct.
Step back, Mr. Palmer. Step back, Vanessa. First of all, Mr. Palmer, we're going to get to the emotional part of this case in a minute. How much is the insurance on the car, Vanessa?
$53 a month.
And you pay that?
Yes, I do.
And Mr. Palmer, how much did you tell your daughter she was supposed to pay you each month towards the purchase price of the car?
We had to establish, first of all, approximately what her income was going to be.
Did you have this discussion with your father?
No. No. He never told me I had to pay him back for the car. Whenever he was upset with me or mad at me, he told me I owe him. But other than that, he never told me.
Honor, that's not true.
What I asked you, Mr. Palmer, was a very simple question. How much did you tell your daughter she had to pay you back each month for the car, like an installment loan? Give me the figure that you say you told her.
I didn't give her a figure. I was somewhere around $100 a month.
That's not a business arrangement, sir. Somewhere around $100 a month. So for a year, she didn't give you anything.
Yes.
That's while she
correct.
was living in your home.
Yes. Of which I had asked her over that year, when are we going to start fulfilling the obligation that we had agreed upon?
That was pretty much when you got angry with her? She says it was when you got angry with her, when
No.
she did something wrong.
No,
You mean-
Your Honor, that was not why I got angry at her.
Why did you go and live with your father in 1991, Vanessa?
Because it was a better living situation than with my mother. She was separated from my stepfather, so
Did your father take good care of you?
yeah.
Then you got to be 17, and according to these papers, you got a boyfriend.
Right.
And your father didn't approve of either the boyfriend or...
He approved of him until he found out he was my boyfriend, because he's friends with a neighbor of my dad's, and he says, "Oh, he's such a nice guy," and this and that. And then whenever he found out he was my boyfriend, he didn't approve. Actually, because he has a kid, he didn't approve.
He has a what?
A daughter.
He has a daughter?
Mm-hmm.
How old is his daughter?
6 months.
Vanessa.
Yes, Your Honor.
You don't have to bring coals to pilly on. Did you ever hear that? Vanessa. I was a family court judge for a very long time. Do you know how many times I've seen 16 and 17-year-old girls? Not all of them as pretty as you are. Tell me that they love a guy and he's got 2 or 3 kids floating around, right? Do you know how it sits on your father's shoulders when he sees his beautiful 17-year-old daughter dating a guy who has a 6-month-old baby. How irresponsible that is. How old is your boyfriend?
20.
20. And I assume he's a president of a bank or something. That's how he earns a living?
No, he was working until he broke his ankle.
He was working at what?
In a warehouse.
And now what is he doing?
He broke his ankle and now he's on disability.
So now we have a 20-year-old on disability with a 6-month-old baby. And you wonder, I mean, I wish, Vanessa, that you could take yourself out of your 17-year-old body and make yourself 40. For a minute. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
Because he knows, if he's smart, how easy it is to throw away your life when you're 17 and to make a mistake when you're 17 and you can't recoup. The woman or the girl who had your boyfriend's 6-month-old baby is never going to be able to recoup her life. Don't you understand? If he liked him, he liked him. Then he found out he was your boyfriend and he's got a 6-month-old baby. You think that there's something wrong with your father for being angry at that and for saying to you, listen, babe, I'm going to do whatever I can to see to it that you don't ruin your life.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
You hook your star to a loser, that makes you a loser.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Palmer says his 17-year-old daughter Vanessa had no right to take the car when she left home to live with her mother.
You're our mother. Stand up here. Stand up here. What's your name?
Donna.
What did you tell the daughter about this boyfriend?
She's dating him. She's not marrying him.
I don't care whether she's dating him or marrying him. Didn't you explain to her what the problems are?
When I found out that he had a child, I was a little upset about that. Other than that, I think he's fine.
You think a 20-year-old with a 6-month-old baby who's on disability is fine for your 17-year-old gorgeous daughter?
He, as a person, is fine.
Listen, there are a lot of very nice people. I have daughters. I have 2 of them. If my daughter, who is 17 years old, came home to me and said, I got a boyfriend who's 20 years old, who's on disability, who's got a 6-month-old kid, then he's not supporting because he's on disability.
Excuse me.
He still is supporting his daughter.
What can I do about that?
You can try to discourage her. Just a second, you can try to discourage her.
It was a done deed.
It's a done deed.
That's
right. She's in love with him.
She's in love with him.
I mean, they're not planning to marry, to run off together. They both live at separate residences. They're dating.
You know, maybe if your daughter had a unified, maybe if your daughter had a unified front with her parents, and both of her parents saying to her, "This is a tremendous mistake," then maybe we wouldn't be in this situation. Because I gather from these papers and from what you're saying that the reason your daughter left home was because you said, "I don't want him in my house anymore."
She was thrown out.
Just a second.
He threw her out.
What happened, sir?
No, Your Honor, that is not true. That is not true. That is not true at all. When I stated that it is not in her best interest to see this young man anymore because of what we have been discussing, was when it all broke loose. She said, well, fine, then. And she said this in the presence of my 2 younger ones because I walked outside to kind of cool off a little bit. That, fine, then, I will go live with my mother.
No.
That is not what happened.
Well, you weren't there. Just a second. You weren't there. So you tell me your version of what happened.
We were arguing and he was yelling at me. And he yelled at me to help my sister with her homework. So I did. And he was still yelling and I yelled back, "Why are you yelling at me when I'm helping you?" And he said, "Don't yell at me, shut up or get out." And I said, "Fine, then I'll go." And he said, "Take all your," well, he didn't say stuff, but.
Was it about Toronto?
Mr. Palmer.
Tell her that.
That was a heated argument. You understand how that falls on a 17-year-old. You understand how that falls on her, even if, you know, even said in anger. If it was said in anger. But you were looking for a reason to leave the house.
No, I wasn't. He told me all the time, "I can't wait till you're 18. Since you have to stay here, I'm going to make it hell for you.
Oh,
I'm going to make you want to leave."
Is that what he said to you?
Yes, Your Honor.
Why would he say that to you?
Ask him.
Who are you?
Insane.
My name is Victoria, and he had told her right in front of me, well, maybe I would love her if she lived at a friend's house. And I thought that was very wrong.
I'm sure it's very wrong. Bottom line is everything was okay until you got the boyfriend.
Everything wasn't okay, but that just added to it.
I was under the impression that he was all for the boyfriend.
He let him come over to the house. He went with us to my aunt's house on Easter.
That's where I got my input about
Well, then what happened? Then there must have been something that happened. If he was in favor of the boyfriend or was not opposed to the boyfriend, he must have found something out. What did he find out? Find out about the baby?
About the baby. He knew he had the baby.
Right.
No, he knew that.
He knew there
that.
we go.
Hey!
Thank
Excuse
you.
me.
Listen, Vanessa.
Thank you.
You misunderstood what she said.
He knew that my boyfriend had a baby.
He approved
wasn't
of
against
the boyfriend. He approved of him. I'm serious.
He told me that I could still hang around him if he got a court order with child support and did everything through court. He pays child support for his daughter. He does everything right.
Just a second. He can't pay child support. Hold on a second. This is getting more interesting by the moment. Mr. Palmer, just a second. Just a second. What you just said to me is, even after he found out about the baby, he said, you could still hang around with him, but I want him to act responsibly towards the baby. I want him to get an order of support and pay it.
He already does.
No. Is that what your father said to you?
Yes.
Is that what your father said to you?
He said that if he had a court order for child support and a court-ordered visitation, then it would be okay.
That sounds pretty... That sounds pretty reasonable to me, sir. I wouldn't be so reasonable, I tell you that right now.
Well, the reason he didn't go through court, he pays child support and he has visitation. They have a written agreement between the two of them. The reason he doesn't take her to court is because his family is totally against that. So...
You are getting yourself into such a barrel of horse manure. I can't tell you. And to see a mother stand there in an approving manner about this whole thing is, to me, bizarre. Mr. Palmer, listen to me, sir. All I can suggest to you, sir, is to keep your door open for your daughter.
He changed the locks.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
Oh, yeah, you guys are
I'm
real
not sure.
intelligent, aren't
tell me
you?
that?
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David Palmer wants his teenage daughter, Vanessa, to meet her responsibilities by paying for the car she took when she moved out of his home.
All I can suggest to you, sir, is to keep your door open for your daughter. She is, at this point in her life, making a tragic mistake. Tragic.
Yes.
I will not be able to get through to her. You have not been able to get through to her.
Nope.
She's got a mother who's got a head someplace in the clouds somewhere.
Very true.
Right?
Correct.
Right?
Very
But
true.
I'm telling you, Vanessa, you find yourself with a 6-month-old baby, madam. Your life is over. And you're a very pretty girl, and you sound like an intelligent girl. You sound like you probably do well in school. You have a job in addition to going to school, which suggests to me that you're motivated. You have a certain responsibility because you pay for your own car insurance. And I'm telling you, you hook your star to a loser, that makes you a loser. And any 20-year-old guy who's dumb enough to have a 6-month-old baby is a loser.
He's going to become a fireman. He's not a
He's
loser.
right now listen.
What?
Listen, gonna become a fireman isn't making him a fireman now. Right now, he's a 20-year-old on disability with a 6-month-old baby.
He broke his ankle.
Listen to me.
This is
Say
him.
nothing. Are you the boyfriend?
Yes.
You the boyfriend? I would suggest that you keep your mouth shut.
Judge Judy continues in a moment. Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. David and Vanessa Palmer, a father and daughter, are fighting over the car she took when she moved in with her mother.
Mr. Palmer, I have to dismiss your lawsuit, and I'm going to tell you why, sir. I was really hoping that when I looked at these papers, I could get beyond your lawsuit and see what this was all about and maybe resolve it. I can't. I mean, I can't. She's going to have to come to terms with that herself, but your daughter's 17. She's a minor. And you cannot get a judgment against a minor because right now you are her legal guardian, correct?
True.
So if I were to give you a judgment against your daughter as her legal guardian, you would be responsible for it. Do you understand that?
You're suing yourself.
Be suing yourself.
Do you understand that? She's a minor.
No, I do not.
Listen to me. I don't know.
Legal guardian.
Hey!
Whatever.
She does not reach the age of majority in this or any other jurisdiction until she turns the minimal age of 18, which means you cannot get a judgment against her. You can get a judgment, however, if she's committed a tort or something else against her guardian. But you, sir, are her lawful guardian. So if I were to give you a judgment against your daughter, you would have to pay it. That sounds kind of stupid, doesn't it? Since you're paying anyway. Now, you can, sir, wait until your daughter turns 18. And then in equity, if you still want to, you can reinstitute this suit. But right now, you cannot sue your daughter. I don't think it was without some value, Mr. Palmer. I don't think that getting this piece out was without some value. I think that your daughter, Vanessa, will at least think a little bit. Vanessa, I have never, in the thousands of times that I've seen young women like you, in cases like yours, it's not unique, I have never seen one of them where the woman, young woman, doesn't find herself behind the 8 ball. And you may be angry with your dad, but if this is all over the boy, and I gather it is, he's right, you're wrong, you'll figure that out in 5 years' time. Unfortunately, in 5 years' time, it may be too late, which is really what he's saying. And if your mother doesn't see that, she's got clouded vision. This case is dismissed. That's all.
So, excuse, you may step out. Judges number 80 on the calendar in the matter of Douglas versus White. Parties have been sworn in. Judge, you may be seated. Have a seat, ma'am. Have a seat.
Mr. Douglas, I've read your complaint. I've read your response. Ms. White, don't understand a lot of it. What I gather, sir, is that you rented a room from the defendant.
That's correct.
And things, according to your complaint, became untenable there. You moved out.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're suing the defendant for $5,000.
Yes.
You rented him a room. You say he moved out owing you a month's rent because he didn't give you 30 days' notice. So you're suing him for $5,000.
Plus sexual harassment.
Well, my limit is $5,000, so I assume that everything that you're suing for is part of your $5,000.
That's correct.
This better be good. Let's go.
It's pretty good. I moved in. When I went to apply for the room, I asked for no drinking, no smoke, or little smoking, and no violence of any kind.
Is this a private house?
Yes, it is.
All right.
This was just at the time of the application.
Excuse me?
This was at the time of the application for the room. There were 3 people there, the defendant, Rose, her witness, and another gentleman.
Okay. So, what happened?
The first month I moved in, it was pretty calm, but thereafter it just got worse.
How did it get worse?
The defendant fought with her roommate constantly in the middle of the night. They'd get drunk and fight. They'd throw chairs at each other, beat each other up. This was happening every night.
So why didn't you just tell them you were leaving?
I couldn't afford to at the time.
Just a second. What do you mean you couldn't afford to?
I'm on a fixed income, and it was costing me $450 a month to live there. I didn't have enough money to move, period.
Well, how much did it cost you to move in?
$450. That was she gave me a break. I just had to pay the first month's rent and half of the second month.
So you didn't have much of an investment in there, so why couldn't you just move out?
No place else would do that. I had to have first and last month.
Well, that's not the defendant's fault, sir.
I didn't blame the defendant for that.
Well, so
I just could not afford to move.
So what are you suing the defendant for $5,000 for?
Because she didn't take it. The money that I paid her was supposed to go as part of the rent or part of the mortgage payment. It never got paid.
What does that have to do with you?
A lot. When the mortgage company's going to throw me out.
What does that have to do with you? You're giving her $450. I'm trying to figure out where this $5,000 number came from.
Well, on top of the not paying the rent, my electricity was shut off.
When?
The last part of January.
And how many months had you been living there?
3 months at that time.
How come the electricity got shut off?
Because he took over control of my house. He told all the tenants, because I got notice of trustee sale, because I'd been trying to save my house after divorce. He got all the tenants together and said, you don't have to pay rent, you don't have to pay any utilities. And they didn't at that point. They all stopped.
Why did he tell the people that they didn't have to pay rent?
Because he said because my house was being supposedly foreclosed, and it didn't.
Oh. So you found, let me understand this. You found out, sir, that the house was in foreclosure.
He took...
Just a minute. Okay. You found out that the house was in foreclosure.
Yes.
And you had a conversation with the other tenants that if the house was in foreclosure, they didn't have to pay.
No.
That's incorrect. I'm sorry.
Who are you?
I'm the witness. I lived in the household at the same time.
Okay. I'll get to you then.
Thank you.
That's important. Did you step up here? One question.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you pay electric?
Yes, ma'am.
You have your proof of that?
I did not bring that. I didn't know I was going to be on trial myself.
When this person moved out, they owed me 2.5 months out of the 4 months they were there. And I'm suing...
This
yes,
lady?
that person right there owes me over 2.5 months. They didn't pay diddly squat to me. And they moved in with this guy.
You have proof?
I do have proof, but it's in Sacramento.
That you paid the last 2 months' rent?
Yes, ma'am.
Did not happen.
Sit down. Are you currently living with him?
Yes, ma'am.
Not with. We're sharing an apartment. Yeah, I want that.
I still don't know where we get $5,000 from, Mr. Douglas.
The electricity was shut off. She shut it off. It wasn't shut off because of the thing. I had to have it turned back on.
So
she stole several of my own personal things
like
from
what?
me. I have a list. Would you like to see it?
Sure. A miniature pulpit? What is that?
A friend of mine had a pulpit made for me, a small one.
Why would your friend do that?
Because I'm a minister, or was a minister at the time he had it made.
How long ago was that?
2 years.
What kind of a minister?
A Christian minister.
I mean, did you have a congregation?
No, I was a counselor.
Counselor for whom?
Marriage counselor.
I'm going to, listen to me. I'm going to read you a few things, and I want you to tell me whether you have any of these things. Ready?
I'm ready.
A miniature pulpit.
That was left in the room and it's still there.
So it's there, ready for him to get.
Yes, I took pictures.
Vinyl and wire lampstand.
That was left in the room. I have pictures.
Cookie jar.
That is in my case right here. It was left in the room.
2-slice toaster.
That was left in the kitchen where it was left.
Just say, I tell you what,
In
just
kitchen.
say yes.
Yeah.
Just say yes that you have it, okay? Sorted couch pillows.
No.
Lavender blanket.
No.
A year's worth of new magazines.
Left in room.
Footstool.
My property. Extortion.
Your property.
My property.
Okay. Computer, monitor, and stand base. Do you have that?
No, I don't.
Set of 4 relaxation tapes.
No,
Do you
I
have
don't
that?
have this.
All right. You now know what she has. Shep. You now know what she has, and we'll make arrangements for you to go pick them up. Now, what else are you suing her for?
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
What do you mean you didn't know who this person was?
I didn't know this person was a man.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Minister Joseph Douglas says he rented a room from Christina White but felt trapped in a nightmare. Christina says Joseph was the problem.
Now, what else are you suing her for? So far, I haven't heard anything near $5,000 worth. All that merchandise that she has, you can have back. I still have... Stop looking at your papers. Tell me where $5,000 is, Mr. Douglas.
Your Honor, I went through pure hell living in that house for 4 months.
Then you should have moved, sir.
I couldn't afford to.
That's not her fault.
Well, it is her fault.
No, sir. She didn't charge you. She didn't
guaranteed
charge
me
you.
something when I moved in there, Your Honor.
Okay.
And she didn't fulfill that agreement.
Okay.
And I have a witness to that, too, or a statement from the other witness.
I don't read statements from witnesses. I hear witnesses. I don't take statements from witnesses. So far, if you moved into an apartment, $450 a month rent. She didn't charge you security.
300 a month.
$300 a month. She didn't charge you security. She didn't charge you first and last. You didn't bring in a whole bunch of stuff, according to you. And if you couldn't afford to move out, she wasn't saying to you, she didn't keep you prisoner there. You could have moved out. Because you can't sue her for $5,000 because you were unhappy there, sir. You're unhappy, you move. This is America. All right, you are countersuing him for what?
I am countersuing for the damage to my room and house.
To your what?
For the damage to my room and house. He left the room filthy, and I have pictures of how the room was left and the stuff he left in the room here, if you care to see some of that. May I?
Come on, get somewhere near $5,000, madam.
Okay. We're getting to that right
Well, then
now.
let's get to it, because this other stuff is nonsense.
Okay.
He
This
wasn't
is-
happy living there. You weren't happy having him there. He left, period. End of discussion.
I wish that had been the end of it, ma'am. The mental and sexual harassment.
Well, you can tell me about that.
First of all, when he left, that was a bit of a charade. He promised me a note that he would pay. He sent someone else to pick up the stuff the next day. And then the day after that, on the 9th, he sent me then threatening, harassing note. And he
Show it
ends
to him and see
with a
if
note
you-
with, "Have a nice day. It may well be one of your last."
Did you send that note, sir?
Yes, I did.
Can I see it, please? Dear Charles and Christine.
All of his correspondence has been addressed that way. The small claims court was addressed that way.
Why do you address the mail like this, sir?
Because that's the way I filed it in court, and I wanted the court to know that I didn't know who this person was until a month before I moved out. That's why I'm angry.
What do you mean you didn't know who this person was?
I didn't know this person was a man.
Because, just a second.
Order.
What? Well, why, sir, would you address mail?
Because I didn't know whose name to send it in, Your Honor.
Well, how was this person introduced to you? How did you...
Christine.
You identified yourself as Christine.
Christine, yes. Totally.
All the time?
All the time, 100%.
Not all the time, Your Honor.
100%.
When she was at home, it was whatever.
I have a witness here that would dispute that. That's ridiculous.
Listen, have you officially changed your gender?
Everything, my legal gender, as shown in my driver's license,
Is female?
changed. Yes, it is.
Okay, and when was
And
that
that's
done?
About 4 years ago.
Okay. Am I correct that the sexual harassment that you are referring to is the fact that he has addressed documents that he sent out to people using both your female name and the name
My
Charles?
previous married name, yes.
Okay.
That is just the beginning of it.
Go ahead.
Him and this other person co-conspired to get me fired at my job. They filed 2 Better Business Bureau complaints alleging, Diane was the first one, alleging went into my store and found this person who was, quote, a man dressed as a woman.
Let me see.
And it has my business response to it, and this is also, he followed with the next day one that alleged the same thing. And everything was fraudulent. They said they could talk to my supervisor. It did not happen.
I don't know what this is about. You want to tell me?
This is about them, this person here, claiming they came in my store and saw me as some stranger, and I've known that person for 2
Just a
years.
minute. I'm talking about this
Well,
gentleman. Forget about her.
Okay.
She's not party to this
Okay.
action.
Him, he followed up with the same identical thing.
No, Your Honor, that's not true.
It's right there in black and
I
white.
wrote the letter, but I wrote it because I objected to this person working in the women's department.
Just a second. You wrote to the Better Business Bureau advising them that the defendant was working in the women's department of a store
Yes.
and she was actually a man, and you thought that that was wrong.
Yes, I did.
Why did you do that?
Because I think it's wrong.
Did I hear you correctly? Did you just curse in here?
I might have.
Get out.
Judge Judy continues in a moment.
But I think you got a lot of nerve with this. This is pretty vindictive. This is pretty vindictive and pretty nasty.
Real cases, real people. Judge Judy. Minister Joseph Douglas and Christina White are at war over rent, invasion of privacy, and allegations of sexual harassment.
That was typical of the situation I lived in. I couldn't do anything.
Then you should have left.
I tried.
Oh, please, give me a break.
I didn't have the money.
That's too bad. That's too bad. That's not her fault. That's not my fault. How old are you, sir?
50.
If you're 50 years old and you didn't have $400 to move out and find another place to live, that's a real problem.
Your Honor.
What?
It would have taken $1,200 to move.
Didn't cost you $1,200 to move
I
into
got
her
lucky.
apartment.
Or I thought I had.
Well, you thought you got lucky, and you didn't.
Obviously.
And you didn't. But I think you got a lot of nerve with this. This is pretty vindictive. This is pretty vindictive. Just a second. Pretty vindictive and pretty nasty. This having.
I still object to her working there. I don't care if it's vindictive or nasty to anybody else. She shouldn't be working in a woman's department.
What? Where did you go to divinity school, sir? Where did you graduate from divinity school?
Florida.
What?
Florida.
Give me the name of the school. Just a second. Give me the name of the school.
United Faith Ministry.
United Faith Ministry?
Yes, Bible College.
And how long did you go to this United
3
Faith
years.
Ministry? When?
1986 through 1989.
Did you graduate from there?
Yes, ma'am.
After 3 years?
Yes.
Divinity school?
Yes.
Where did you go to school before that? You don't go to divinity school for 3 years, sir.
Well, I did.
You don't get a
Honor.
Doctor of Divinity in 3 years. Unless you get your Doctor of Divinity and close the cover before you strike.
I do not have a DD, Your Honor.
Huh?
That's a Doctor of Divinity.
Yeah? So what are
Mine
you?
is in religion. It's a PhD, and it's an honorary PhD, but it's still valid.
Right. I just want to make sure we understand each
Okay.
other, sir. Because I understand you. This is a vindictive thing to do. What else?
Well, basically my job was pretty much ruined his career. Ruined that
Did you
place.
get fired from your job?
Not
Good.
yet, but it's going
Oh,
back.
that's something.
Okay, I
Let me
have
see
also
the
my
letter.
counseling. I've had to start counseling because of what they've done. Sexual harassment and what happened at my work. Because I used to go to work and feel happy, and now I go there and I just feel like I've been raped at my work by this man and this other person.
Yeah.
Thank you. And caused breach of contract by other tenants by saying that they didn't have to pay rent or utilities, and that's the only reason is I ran out
Listen
of
to
money.
me. I'm not entertaining that. The fact that he told other tenants that they did not have to pay rent or utilities, and they listened to him
Yes,
because
they did.
because they were stupid. Go after them in a separate action, each one
Yes.
of them for money that they owe you.
I
What else?
He interfered with my mortgage contract when they tried to serve me the trustee sale notice, and I was home. He stopped him from doing that, and he got the notice, and he read it, and had him put it on the door. He actually said I wasn't home.
They posted the notice. That's all it was,
After
Your
you
Honor.
told him I wasn't home, you lied.
They had already posted it.
You lied. I was home.
She's ready to rule.
Listen to me. He has, as abhorrent as I believe it is, he has a right to voice his objection as a citizen under the First Amendment to the Better Business Bureau with regard to someone who he knows is a man who is now a woman working in a woman's shop.
Well, he didn't know that from me, Your Honor.
Well, he may not have known it from you, but that happens to be true. So he has a First Amendment right to write to the Better Business Bureau. His motives, I question, just as I question his reverendship. All right. But that is not actionable. It's not sexual harassment. He's saying that he finds that not a reasonable situation to have you working in a woman's department in a store. Now, I don't know what business is it of his unless he goes in to buy ladies' things and goes into the dressing room, but he's allowed to do that because that's what the First Amendment to the Constitution says he's allowed to do. Listen, you get nothing from this court, sir. Absolutely, positively nothing except within 4 days, escorted. You can go and retrieve the items that you will please have put to one side someplace so we can pick up all the items that he has left in your apartment.
Right, my house.
Now, most of the damages that you are requesting from this court have to do with this harassment and making your life miserable.
Yes. Inside and out.
Inside and out. He left without giving you 30 days notice. Is that correct?
That's correct.
I had a 3-day or quit notice, Your Honor, so I left.
You didn't leave within 3 days. You hung on.
Just a minute. Okay. He left. I would assume, Miss White, that you are very happy to be rid of him.
Very.
That you didn't want him around for an additional 30 days. Correct?
I actually offered he could stay there if he promised to catch up on the rent.
Just a second. From everything that you've told me, you were very happy that he moved out when he didn't stay an additional 30 days.
Sure. I mean, at that
Good.
point, yes.
Give him back everything that you owe him. This case is dismissed.